Prelude, the melody of stillness. O seeking soul, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Exhale slowly. How far have you traveled? How long have you fought? How hard have you strained to become, to achieve, to possess? You were taught that the path to fulfillment is paved with sweat and effort, that the universe rewards only the relentless striver. Now I invite you into a sacred space, into a truth older than the mountains and deeper than the oceans. What if the greatest power of attraction you have ever yearned for lies not in the roar of action, but is hidden in the sanctuary of your inner stillness? The universe does not operate on the principle of exertion. It doesn't respond to your demanding shouts, but to the subtle frequency, the silent melody you broadcast from your very core. Every external pursuit creates an invisible push, a resistance. True attraction, effortless magnetism, is born from absolute inner peace. This journey is not about seeking, it is about becoming. Your purpose is not to hunt for wealth, but to embody abundance. You don't need to chase after love, but to become love itself. A magnet does not run to attract iron. It simply is, and in its potent stillness, it commands the iron to come to it. Prosperity is not a castle you must build from scratch. It is a memory to be awakened. It is an ancient melody, a symphony of plenty that has always hummed in the marrow of your soul. Your task is not to compose a new song, but to listen, to remember, and to tune yourself to the one already playing. The most potent creative energy and magnetic power are not found in loud, chaotic thoughts. They reside in the sacred pause between them. In that space of stillness, the gap between each breath, you connect with infinite intelligence and the flow of the universe. This is where miracles are born. Therefore, this path is not one of adding on, it is one of letting go. This is not a journey of acquiring more knowledge or skills, but a glorious process of shedding. You are invited to release the layers of limiting beliefs, the masks of false identity, the noise of a world that tells you that you are not enough. You are being called to sculpt yourself, not by adding more clay, but by carving away all that is not you, allowing the masterpiece within to be revealed. And here is the ultimate key: rest in your authentic presence. When you can fully abide in who you truly are, without judgment, without desire, simply being you, create a natural gravitational pull as powerful as a planet's. The universe, in its wisdom, will naturally move to fill you, just as water always finds its way to the lowest ground. These words are not a new invention. This is ancient wisdom, an inheritance that runs in your blood. Your finding this book, reading these words at this very moment, is no accident. It is a sign that you are ready to remember what your soul has always known. Welcome home, Chapter 1. The Whisper of Abundance. In a valley cradled by majestic mountains where the morning mist often embraced the oaken rooftops, there lived a blacksmith named Elias. He was more than a smith. He was an artist. The swords he forged were not merely sharp, but perfectly balanced, and the horseshoes he hammered seemed to grant luck to the steeds that wore them. Elias's fame was widespread, and people believed the strength of his hands and his iron will were infused into every fiber of the metal. One day, a messenger arrived from the Lord, who ruled the vast lands. The Lord desired an iron gate for his sacred garden, a gate that was not only strong, but also held within it the soul of peace. This was the greatest honor of Elias's career. He believed that to complete such a noble task, he must pour into it all his strength, all his determination, all the might he possessed. Elias began. He roared with the flames in his forge, his hammer striking the anvil, with a sound that echoed through the valley like thunder. He worked from dawn until deep into the night, drenched in sweat, his muscles taut. He screamed at the iron, trying to force his will upon it, to bend it to his vision of perfection. "You will be magnificent," he hissed through clenched teeth. But a strange thing happened. The metal seemed to resist him. Welds cracked. The elegant curves he envisioned in his mind emerged crude and lifeless. The harder he tried, the heavier the gate became, carrying an energy of struggle, not of peace. After weeks of desperate effort, Elias was exhausted. He looked at his failed creation, a silent and ugly mass of metal, and his heart broke. Failure cast a long shadow over his workshop. In a moment of complete surrender, he collapsed onto the cool earth floor. He had no more strength to shout, no more will to impose. He just lay there listening. And in that silence, something new crept into his awareness. For the first time, he heard not just the echo of his hammer, but the soft crackle of the fire, the gentle sizzle of the quenching water, and the low, resonant hum of the cooling metal. A gentle impulse, a wordless whisper arose from deep within him, not force, but harmony, not command, but listening. The next day, Elias returned to his work a different man. He moved slowly, almost in a meditative dance. He no longer commanded the fire, but observed it, feeding it coal only when it asked. He did not bring his hammer down with fury, but lifted and lowered it in a natural rhythm, feeling the metal's response beneath his hands. He did not try to force it. He invited it to transform. He was joining the song of creation, and so the gate began to take shape. The curves grew soft and graceful. Iron flowers bloomed naturally under his touch. When it was finished, the gate was not just beautiful. It radiated a profound sense of peace. It stood as if it had always belonged there, a symbol of harmony born not of strenuous effort, but of surrender and listening. Elias had not amplified his desire. He had become quiet enough to hear the frequency of creation itself. This is a law of the universe, a truth as silent as the air we breathe. True guidance never arrives as a roaring command. It comes as a whisper. When you try to shout your desires into the cosmos with forceful action and loud determination, you inadvertently create a layer of static, drowning out the very natural frequency that is meant to attract what you need. Your magnetism is a natural inherent state. It is not created by striving, but awakened through stillness. Consider the story of Lyra, a young woman in a small seaside village. Her voice was a gift. When she sang for the villagers, her tone as clear and warm as the morning sun could soothe the most troubled hearts. The royal vocal competition was held once a year, and Lyra, encouraged by her entire village, decided to enter, hoping to bring honor to her home. She believed that to impress the noble judges, she had to sing louder, more technically, and more magnificently than anyone else. She began to practice day and night. She pushed her voice to its highest, most piercing notes, straining to create more volume. She chose the most complex arias, songs designed to showcase, not to connect. The over-effort strained her vocal cords. The natural warmth in her voice vanished, replaced by a technical coldness. She was trying to amplify her talent, and in the process she was losing its very essence. The night before the competition, her voice was raw and hoarse. Desperate, she ran to the shore, sat on a rocky outcrop, and wept. She could not sing. She could no longer shout her talent. And so she let go. She just sat there and listened. She heard the waves caressing the sand, the distant call of gulls, the wind whistling through the cliffs. In the vast stillness of the sea, a melody came to her. It was not a grand aria, but a gentle lullaby her mother used to sing. It did not require power, only sincerity. An inner impulse, the compass of her soul, told her this was her song. The next day, before the panel of judges, Lyra did not sing the technical piece she had prepared. Instead, she closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and released the lullaby of the sea. Her voice was not loud, but it held the stillness of the ocean and the warmth of memory. It reached a place deep inside the listeners, a place that boastful noise could never touch. She won, not because of the volume of her song, but because of the purity of the frequency to which she had attuned. She had stopped trying to amplify and had instead listened to the whisper of her own magnetic nature. This trust in subtle guidance is the path to alignment. The most crucial action is not to try harder, but to learn to trust the quiet directives within. That very trust allows you to merge with the stream of abundance that is always flowing toward you, instead of swimming against it with futile effort. A healing practice. Attuning to the silent hum to help you connect with this subtle guidance in your own life. Try this simple exercise. Find a quiet space set aside 5 to 10 minutes where you won't be disturbed. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. Hold your desire lightly. Think of something you are desiring in your life. It could be a solution to a problem, a new opportunity, or a sense of peace. Instead of gripping it tightly, imagine you are holding this desire gently in the palm of your hand like a delicate butterfly. Shift from wanting to listening. Now shift your focus. Release all effort to figure out the answer. Instead, just listen. Listen to your breath. Listen to the subtle sounds in the room. Listen to the silence between those sounds. Ask a quiet question. In this stillness, gently ask, what is the whisper for me right now? Don't search for a verbal answer. Be open to a feeling, a fleeting image, a soft urge to get up and get a glass of water, or a sudden memory. Trust the subtlety. Whatever arises, no matter how small or seemingly irrelevant, acknowledge it without judgment. This may be the very first step, the quiet guidance you need. The practice is not about receiving grand answers, but about training your ability to hear the whispers. Trust that your magnetic nature always knows the way. Your job is not to create the pull, but to clear away the static of over-effort so that the universe's whisper can be heard. Chapter 2. How Emptiness Invites Abundance. On the gentle slopes of a fertile land, there lived a farmer named Kale. He was known throughout the region not just for his hard work, but for his granary. To Kale, a full barn was the ultimate symbol of security and success. He proudly showed everyone how, even after a long winter, his granary never seemed to empty. He carefully held on to grain from last year's harvest, and the year before that, seeing it as a testament to his diligence. But a subtle truth was unfolding that Kale failed to see. The old wheat, while not spoiled, had lost its life force. It had become heavy, and the loaves of bread made from it were dense and tasteless. It could fill a stomach, but it could not nourish the spirit. Then one year the heavens gifted a harvest more bountiful than any before. The golden ears of wheat, plump and brimming with the sun's energy, promised a winter of plenty and prosperity. Kyle's family rejoiced as they harvested, but when they brought the new sacks of grain back, they faced a critical problem. The granary was full. It was packed with old, lifeless grain. Kale stood before a choice. He could not bring the new harvest inside. The vibrant, life-filled grain was piled haphazardly outside, exposed to the dew, wind, and the risk of mold, while the old grain sat protected within the sturdy walls. His cup was already full. His obsession with holding on to the past was preventing him from receiving the prosperity of the present. For days he struggled. Discarding the old grain felt like a waste, a denial of the hard work of years past. But then one afternoon, watching his young son struggle to chew a piece of hard bread made from the old wheat, he had an awakening. He was feeding his family a memory, not a meal. With a newfound resolve, Kale threw open the granary doors. He and his family spent the next day clearing it out. They didn't discard the old grain with anger. They scattered it for the birds and returned the rest to the soil as a word of thanks. When the work was done, the granary was astonishingly empty. The silence and the vast space within gave Kyle a flash of fear, but also an immense relief. Immediately they began to bring in the new sacks. The golden light of the new harvest filled the space, carrying the scent of sun and life. The granary was not just full again, it was filled with potential, with the promise of fragrant loaves and warm winter days. Kyle had learned a profound lesson to receive true abundance. He first had to dare to create an empty space. The universe operates on a sacred and immutable principle. You cannot pour into a cup that is already full. For new abundance opportunities and energy to flow into your life, you must consciously release what is old. Holding on to old stories, past hurts, or limiting beliefs isn't how you learn from the past. It's how you imprison yourself within it. They are not metals of experience, but energetic barriers blocking the natural flow of prosperity. This clinging is not just physical. Consider the story of Alaric, the greatest mapmaker in the capital city. In his study hung an enormous map, his life's work charting the entire known world. It was his pride, his identity, his legacy. That map defined him. But then young explorers returned from long voyages with new nautical charts, with tales of unknown mountain ranges and lands that lay beyond the edges of Alaric's map. They brought their notes to him, their eyes sparkling with the thrill of discovery. Alaric reviewed them, and a cold wave washed over him. He refused to believe them. To accept this new information meant admitting that his life's masterpiece was obsolete. It meant accepting that the world was larger than he believed. His mind, like Kyl's granary, was full of old knowledge. The fixed belief in a fully charted world took up all the space, leaving no room for a newer, more expansive reality. He clung to his old map as a fortress to protect his ego, until one day the young prince heir to the throne came to visit him. The young man looked at the beautiful map with admiration, then turned to Alaric and said with simple power, "Sir Alaric, this map guided our fathers. What map will guide our generation to the undiscovered lands?" The question was not a challenge, but an invitation. It didn't attack Alaric's past, but opened a door to his future. Alaric suddenly realized he had become the jailer of his own knowledge. That night, in the silence of his study, he did the unthinkable. He carefully took the old map down, rolled it up, and placed it in a chest. It was not an act of rejection, but one of honor. Then he spread a completely new sheet of parchment on the table. It was pure white, empty. That emptiness was at first frightening, yet it was also a fertile space of infinite potential. He had released an old belief to make room for a greater truth. The universe abhors a vacuum, and it quickly filled the space Alaric had created with new purpose, new passion, and a legacy even greater than before. Letting go is not an act of loss. It is a powerful declaration of trust. It is your belief that the space you create will be filled with something better. The emptiness left after a release is not a void. It is the most fertile ground, a state of pure potential, ready for the seeds of new abundance to sprout. A healing practice, the ritual of releasing space. The act of creating space is a sacred ritual. You can practice this to invite new energy into your life. Identify your fullness. Look around your life. What is taking up space without serving you anymore? It could be a closet full of clothes you never wear, an expired relationship, an old resentment, or a belief that I am not good enough. Choose one thing, acknowledge and give thanks. Hold the object in your hands or visualize the relationship/belief in your mind. Don't push it away. Instead say, "Thank you. Thank you, sweater, for keeping me warm. Thank you, memory, for teaching me about my own strength." This acknowledges that it once served a purpose. The act of release. Now perform the physical or mental act of release. Donate the clothes, delete the phone number, or write the limiting belief on a piece of paper. As you do, say with intention, "I release you with gratitude. Your cycle with me is complete. Your space is now open to receive new good." If you've written it down, you can tear it up or safely burn it. Feel the space. After the release, take a moment to truly feel the new space that has been created. Feel the lightness in your closet, your heart, or your mind. Don't rush to fill it. Just breathe into this space of potential and trust that the universe will bring the perfect thing to fill it at the perfect time. Remember, every time you let go of something old, you are not losing. You are saying yes to a brighter, more abundant future that is waiting to enter. Chapter 3. The Resonance of Gratitude. In the sheer Wallan canyons where the wind hissed through stone and the sun only reached down at high noon, there lived a miner named Brant. He was a man of bulging muscles and an iron will. Brant believed the mountain was an enemy, a stingy giant hiding gold in its depths, and he had to take it by force. Each day, Brant assaulted the mountain. He used the largest sledgehammers and set the most powerful explosive charges. His shouts mingled with the roar of falling rock. He cursed the silent rock faces that hid the treasure from him. When he saw older miners working slowly, almost as if they were listening to the earth, Brant scoffed at their laziness, but his brutal efforts yielded only dust-broken tools and an exhausted body. He was demanding wealth by force, and the mountain answered only with resistance and silence. Then one day, a small rockslide caused by his own aggressive methods sealed the exit of a tunnel. Brant was trapped. In the terrifying silence of the darkness, with nothing to do but wait, he was forced into stillness. And for the first time, he felt the mountain. He felt the deep, steady pulse of the earth. He noticed the subtle shifts in temperature, the way small trickles of water seeped from particular cracks. He began to see the mountain not as a foe, but as a living entity with its own rhythm and language. When he was rescued, Brant returned to his work a different man. He left his largest sledgehammer behind. He learned to read the language of the stone, the changes in color, the lines of quartz, the texture of the soil. He no longer fought the mountain. He conversed with it. He followed the veins of rock like a boatman following the current of a river. He had shifted from force to harmony. And then, by following the whispers of the earth, he found a vein of pure gold. It was larger than anything he could have imagined, winding through the stone like a river of light. He hadn't conquered the mountain. He had been granted passage by it once he showed it respect. Brant learned that wealth cannot be seized. It is revealed through resonance. True wealth never comes from a place of struggle. It is drawn to you when you achieve a state of harmony. Change your perspective on money. It is not just coins and paper. It is materialized energy, a physical expression of the universal flow. How you feel and act toward money is a perfect mirror of your attitude toward life. If you demand, you will be met with resistance. If you revere, you will create a clear channel for it to flow. The story of Isolde, a weaver in a bustling town, illustrates this. Isolde had nimble hands and an artist's soul, but she lived in a state of constant gnawing anxiety about money. Her life was a series of counting every coin, her heart always tight with fear. Each time she sold a cloth and received payment, she would clutch the coins, her mind filled with the worry that they wouldn't be enough, that they would be the last she'd ever see. When she had to spend, she did so with a feeling of loss and regret. To her, money was a finite, scarce resource that was always trying to escape her grasp. This energy of lack seeped into her weavings, making them, while technically skilled, feel tense and soulless. One day, a pilgrim, an old woman with kind eyes, bought a small ribbon from her. Before handing the coin to Isolde, the woman held it in her palm, closed her eyes, and whispered a silent word of thanks. Seeing Isolde's surprise, the old woman smiled and explained, "This coin is not just metal. It is the energy of a meal, of a roof, of a gift. It is a traveler on a long journey. I thank it for its visit and wish it safe passage on its way to you." This idea that money was a flow of energy to be honored, not a possession to be hoarded, stunned Isolde. That evening, she took out her few meager coins. Instead of feeling fear, she tried the old woman's way. She held a coin and thought of the person who gave it to her, silently thanking them. She thanked the coin for choosing to stay with her, if only for a short time. In that moment, a miraculous energetic shift occurred within her. She had consciously shifted from the frequency of lack to the frequency of gratitude. The universe does not respond to your scarcity. It responds to the energetic frequency you broadcast. Gratitude is the frequency of abundance. Isolde's inner shift began to change her outer reality. Her anxiety lessened. Freed from the constricting energy of fear, her weavings became softer, more vibrant, and more radiant. People were drawn to the new, joyful energy in her work. Money began to flow to her more naturally and easily, not because she demanded it, but because she had become a magnet for it. She learned to receive with gratitude and to give with gratitude, creating a virtuous cycle of prosperity. A healing practice, transforming the energy of money. To change your relationship with prosperity, begin by changing your relationship with its physical form. Touch and feel. Take any coin or bill. Close your eyes. Instead of thinking of its purchasing power, truly feel it. Feel its texture, its temperature, its weight. Acknowledge it as an energetic entity in your hand. Expand your awareness. Imagine the journey this bill has taken. How many hands has it passed through? How many stories has it been a part of? It may have been a worker's wage, a child's birthday gift, the payment for a family's loaf of bread. See it as a symbol of human exchange and connection. Practice gratitude for the flow. When you receive money, whether it's a paycheck, a gift, or a found coin, take a silent second, place a hand on it, and say in your mind, "Thank you for arriving." Be grateful for the flow that brought it to you. When you spend money, as you pay for a good or service, release it with a silent blessing instead of a sense of loss. Think, "Thank you for your time with me. May you continue your journey and bring value to others." The Prosperity Journal. Each evening, write down 3 things you were financially grateful for that day. It can be as simple as, "Grateful I had enough for my morning coffee," "Grateful I found a free parking spot," or "Grateful a friend paid for lunch." This exercise trains your mind to focus on the abundance that is already present, rather than on any lack. The shift in your financial destiny does not begin on the outside. It begins with a shift in your inner frequency. By practicing gratitude, you are retuning your magnetic nature to resonate spontaneously with the symphony of abundance that is always playing throughout the universe. Chapter 4. The Treasure Within. Finian was a sculptor, but in his heart, he felt he was only a stonemason. His daily work was to hew common granite blocks into square bricks for construction projects. He dreamed of creating a masterpiece, a statue so alive it would make viewers hold their breath, but he believed he lacked the talent, and more importantly, the right material. If only. He would often sigh, "I had a block of flawless marble from the south, then I could sculpt something wondrous." He would look at the gray granite blocks in his yard, familiar, rough, and ordinary, and see in them a reflection of his own inadequacy. The treasure he sought, he was certain, lay somewhere far away, not here. His consciousness was one of lack, and so his reality was one of soulless stones. One afternoon, an old, blind traveler stopped to rest near his workshop. Hearing Finian lamenting his common stones, the traveler smiled and asked to touch one of them. His old hands slowly glided over the block's surface. He did not see its drab gray color. He felt its inner structure, its hidden veins, the tiny flecks of crystal, and its dormant power. After a long silence, he spoke, his voice low and warm. "Sculptor, you search for a different stone, but you have yet to listen to the song of the stone you have. The statue is not in a distant quarry. It has always been waiting inside this very block. Your job is not to impose a shape upon it, but to release the shape that is already there." Those words struck Finian like a bolt of lightning. Release the shape that is already there. For the first time he understood, a masterpiece was not something created from scratch. It was something uncovered. He stopped searching outside and began to look within, both within the stone and within himself. He picked up his chisel this time, not with frustration, but with reverence. He worked as if he were pulling back a curtain to reveal a beauty that had always been hidden. From that ordinary block of granite, Finian released the form of a resting lion. It was so lifelike one could almost feel the steady breath in its stone chest. The statue's beauty came not from the rarity of its material, but from the truth that Finian had recognized and honored the value inherent within it. The moment he realized the treasure was always there within his grasp, he himself became a masterpiece. Abundance is an inner reality, not a distant possibility. The universe has already installed the seed of all prosperity within you. Your job is not to create it, but to uncover it. The outer world is merely a mirror reflecting back to you with perfect accuracy how you feel about your own value and worthiness. Your consciousness precedes and physical manifestation follows. The determining factor in what you allow yourself to receive in life is your belief in whether or not you are worthy. Look at Alara, an apprentice in the city's most famous bakery. No one could bake loaves with a crust so perfectly crisp and a center so soft and fragrant as she could. Yet she lived in a cramped attic and earned a pittance while the gruff master baker took all the credit. Alara believed her value came from the effort of her labor. She told herself, "If I work harder, if I bake one more batch, perhaps the master will notice and give me a raise." She never dared to ask for more because deep down she did not feel she deserved it. When customers praised the bread, she would lower her head and say, "It is the master's recipe." Her inner reality was one of self-effacement, and the outer world mirrored this by overlooking her and compensating her poorly. Until one day, a noblewoman, a regular customer, spoke to her privately. "My dear," she said, her voice firm, "I don't come here for the master's name. I come here for the bread made by your hands. You have a gift in those hands. Do you know that?" That direct, sincere recognition stunned Ilara. For the first time, someone saw her inherent value, not the product of her labor. That night she sat in her attic and looked at her hands. She no longer saw them as tools of labor, but as vessels for a unique gift. A warm feeling of worthiness, even if just a small ember, began to glow in her heart. The gift is already within me, she realized. She did not need to work harder. She simply needed to align with the value she had just discovered. Her energy shifted. She began to walk with a quiet confidence. She baked with a new joy and reverence. The external world began to rearrange itself to match her new inner reality. The master baker, perhaps sensing the shift and fearing he would lose her, began to treat her with respect and gave her a significant raise. Not long after, the noblewoman herself offered to finance Ilara's own small bakery. Success and prosperity were not rewards Ilara fought to win. They were the inevitable consequence of her finally acknowledging and believing in the value that had existed within her all along. A healing practice acknowledging your inner treasure. The journey to abundance is not a search, but an excavation. This exercise will help you recognize the treasure already within you. A quiet space. Sit down with a pen and a piece of paper in a place where you feel at peace. Create an inner asset inventory. Instead of writing what you want, write what you are and what you have. Don't limit yourself to the physical. List your qualities, your intangible assets. For example, my patience in listening to a friend, the ability to make a perfect cup of tea, the kindness I showed to a stranger, the strength that got me through a difficult day, the creativity in how I arrange my home, the love I feel for my family pet. Write down at least 10 such assets. Feel your existing abundance. Now read your list aloud. With each item, don't just read the words. Pause for a second and truly feel its truth. Feel the warmth of your kindness. Feel the power of your perseverance. Recognize that this is your true, inalienable wealth. It is already here. A declaration of worthiness. After reading your list, place a hand over your heart. Take a deep breath and declare with conviction, "I am a reality of abundance. The treasure is already here within me. I am wholly worthy of all the good that this value naturally attracts to me." Repeat this exercise often. The practice of prosperity is not the hope for a wealthy future, but the powerful recognition of the treasure that exists in the present moment. When you acknowledge it, the entire universe will conspire to help you manifest it in the outer world. Chapter 5. The Silent Flame of Abundance. In a seaside fishing village where life depended on the generosity of the ocean, there lived a master fisherman named Silas. He was not the strongest man, nor did he have the largest boat, but he always returned with a full hold, even when others came back empty-handed. One season the tides grew unpredictable. The fish seemed to vanish, and a simmering panic spread through the village. The younger fishermen became frantic. They rowed out farther, casting their nets with haste and anger, their oars slapping the water, creating chaos. They believed that more forceful effort would yield results, but their desperation, their chaotic energy agitated the sea itself, chasing away any remaining schools of fish in the area. Meanwhile, Silas did something that seemed nonsensical. He became quieter. Instead of rowing madly, he allowed his small boat to drift with the current. He sat still, closing his eyes not to sleep, but to feel. He felt every subtle ripple against the hull, the delicate shift of the wind on his cheek, the deep rhythm of the ocean. His mind was as placid as a lake without a single ripple. He was not searching for fish. He was becoming one with the sea, waiting for it to reveal the way. And in that profound stillness he noticed what the others had missed. A flock of seabirds flying in an unusual pattern in the distance. A subtle change in the water's color. A feeling, a gentle inner impulse telling him where to go. The path was reflected with perfect clarity on the still mirror of his mind. Trusting that silent guidance, Silas gently rowed to the spot. He cast his net not with desperation, but with calm intention and respect. That night he returned with a catch large enough to share with the entire village. He did not find the fish by desperately craving them. He found them by becoming still enough to hear the ocean's whisper. Stillness is the mirror that reflects the path. Just as water must be placid to reflect the sky, your mind must be at peace to recognize the universe's guidance. The law of attraction does not just respond to your desire, it responds to the state from which that desire arises. A desire born from peace and trust has a magnetic field 1,000 times more powerful than a desire screamed from chaos and fear. Calmness attracts, chaos repels. Consider the story of Lena, a merchant in a great city. She faced an opportunity to invest in a new desert trade route, a venture that could bring immense prosperity or lead to utter ruin. The pressure and competition turned her mind into a storm. What if I fail? What if I choose the wrong partner? What if I miss the opportunity of a lifetime? She lost sleep. Numbers danced before her eyes, and every piece of advice seemed suspect. She was trying to make a monumental decision from a state of extreme emotional turmoil. Exhausted and about to make a hasty choice just to end the inner torment, she suddenly remembered her grandfather's teaching himself, a master merchant: never make money decisions when the sea inside you is stormy. She realized she had been trying to pilot a ship through a hurricane. She stopped everything. She canceled her meetings. For one full day, she forbade herself to think about the trade route. She went to the small garden behind her house, touched the soil, watched the flowers, and focused only on her breath. She did not passively wait for peace to come. She actively cultivated it. She viewed regaining her inner equilibrium as the most critical strategic move. This was an act of power, not weakness. The next morning, she awoke with a mind that was clear and still. She reviewed the plans. Now everything was obvious. The numbers no longer danced with anxiety. She could clearly see which path was logical, which partner was trustworthy. The choice was no longer distorted by fear. She made her decision not from frantic hope, but from a quiet confidence. That venture was a resounding success, and not just financially. It operated with a harmony and flow because it had been birthed from a state of harmony. Lena learned that emotional stability is the lighthouse of prosperity. It is the most powerful signal she could send to the universe, declaring that she was ready and a safe harbor for the flow of abundance. A healing practice. Anchoring the mind in a storm, peace is not something you have, it is something you do. Practice this exercise whenever you face an important decision or feel anxious about your abundance. Identify the storm when you feel worried, rushed, or insecure about an issue, finances, work, etc. Stop. Place a hand on your heart and say silently, "I recognize that there is a storm within me." Naming it diminishes its power. Create a purposeful pause. Commit to a period of armistice, whether it's 15 minutes or an hour. During this time, you will not try to solve the problem. Your only task is to find your stillness. Connect with a still anchor. Choose a simple action to anchor your mind to the present. Your anchor could be your breath. Sit still and feel the air enter, fill your lungs, and slowly exit. Don't try to change it. Just observe. Nature, if possible, step outside. Touch a leaf. Look at the sky or listen to the sound of the wind. Body sensation, stand firmly on the floor. Feel the soles of your feet connecting with the ground. Feel the weight of your body, the solidness of the earth beneath you. Ask from a place of stillness. After your mind has calmed, gently bring the issue to mind. But instead of asking, "What must I do?" ask a different question. Which path feels the most peaceful and solid? Or what next action resonates with this stillness? Trust the clarity that emerges. Pay attention to the answers that arise in the quiet. The right path often carries a feeling of relief, clarity, and simplicity. Wrong choices often feel complicated and continue to carry a sense of heaviness. Your greatest power lies not in controlling the outer world, but in mastering your inner world. Cultivate your garden of peace daily, and you will find that the flowers of abundance will bloom there naturally. Chapter 6. The Invisible Threads of Destiny. Rihanna was an herbalist, and she carried a heavy burden. A strange illness was quietly spreading among the children of the valley, and the only known cure came from a rare flower, the sun petal. This flower grew only on the highest, most treacherous peaks, its location a secret held by nature alone. All the old maps and ancestral directions had proven useless. Driven by an iron will, Rihanna began her search with logic and force. She climbed the highest mountains, followed the familiar trails, and consulted the old maps. She worked tirelessly, but all she found was frustration and common wildflowers. She was trying to force a discovery, imposing her will and intellect upon the wilderness. She felt lost and desperate. Exhausted, she sank onto a rock outcropping, ready to give up. She no longer looked at the map. She let go of all her plans. She just sat there, fully present with the world. She stopped looking for the flower and started listening to the world around her. And then something strange happened. A gentle pull, a subtle attraction drew her attention toward a different path. It looked unremarkable and seemed to lead away from the logical high peaks. It made no sense, but for the first time she decided to trust this inner attraction over her own logic. She followed that invisible thread. The path did not lead her up the mountain, but down into a sun-dappled ravine she had never known. And there, growing on an impossibly green carpet of moss, was an entire field of sun petals, glowing like tiny suns. In that moment she realized a profound truth. The flower had not been passively waiting to be found. It had been calling to her. The pull she felt was its signal, the language of the universe guiding her. The connection had always been there. She just needed to become quiet enough to feel it. Attraction is the language of the universe. The subtle pulls, the sudden impulses, the feeling of being drawn to a person, a place, or a strange idea are never random. They are signals from a greater intelligence that is orchestrating everything to lead you home. Your deepest desires, the ones that spring from the very core of your soul, are not the demands of your ego. They are sacred signals, divine signposts, pointing directly to what is already yours in the realm of energy and potential. You and everything meant for you, your abundance, your love, your destiny were connected by invisible threads, long before they manifested in the physical world. Your task is not to strain to create new links, but to have the courage to recognize and follow the connections that already exist. Consider the story of Torvin, an apprentice, in the city's carpentry workshop. He was a skilled craftsman, and the tables and chairs he made were perfect and sturdy, but his heart was empty. He felt as if he were living someone else's life. At night he had recurring dreams of tiny gears and the soft ticking of clocks. An inexplicable pull always drew him toward the shop of the old reclusive watchmaker at the end of the street, but he always dismissed it as a fanciful thought. One day, as he was walking a small wooden toy, a bird with moving wings fell from a cart and broke. On instinct, Torvin picked it up, but instead of using wood glue, he sat down and with his small knife meticulously carved a new joint, a tiny gear, to fix the wings. As he worked, a pure joy and passion he had never known rose up in him. He realized it then. The dreams, the mysterious pull, they weren't random. They were the call of destiny. That which he was seeking was also actively seeking him. Gathering all his courage, Torvin went to the watchmaker's shop. The old man said nothing, only pointed silently to a complex timepiece he was working on at his bench. "I have been waiting," he said softly, "for the right hands to arrive." Torvin looked at the intricate tangle of gears and springs, and he understood them instantly, as if remembering a long-forgotten language. He did not create his new destiny that day. He recognized it. He stepped into a role that had already been woven for him in the grand tapestry of life. Manifestation is not the act of creating something from nothing. It is the act of pulling back the veil to recognize the connections that have always existed and having the courage to walk the path your heart has shown you. A healing practice, listening to the call of attraction. The universe is always speaking to you in the language of attraction. This exercise helps you learn to listen and interpret its messages. Clear the static. Find a quiet moment, close your eyes, and take 3 deep breaths. Temporarily set aside your plans, your to-do lists, and the worries of your rational mind. Create an inner attraction map. With an open mind, ask yourself the following questions and write down the first answer that appears, no matter how small or strange it seems. Do not judge. What book is calling my name even if I don't know why? What place in my city, a side street, a cafe, a park? Am I curious to visit? What skill learning, a language, gardening, playing an instrument? Do I feel mysteriously drawn to? What person, an old friend, a casual acquaintance has popped into my mind to reconnect with? Find the golden thread. Look at the list you've just written. Is there a common theme, a repeating motif? Perhaps they all relate to creativity or nature or healing. This common thread is an important message from your inner guidance system. Take one act of trust. You don't have to change your whole life at once. Choose the single smallest thing on your list and act on it this week. Borrow that book. Take a walk down that street. Watch an introductory video about that skill. Watch for synchronicity. As you take this small step of faith, become hyper-aware. Notice the meaningful coincidences, the unexpected encounters, the new ideas that seem to pop up out of nowhere. This is the universe responding, confirming that you are on the right track, following the invisible threads of your destiny. Rest assured that you are not alone in your search. Your destiny is also searching for you. The pressure to create everything is lifted, replaced by the joy of listening and participating in a magical dance that has been going on all along. Chapter 7. Belief. The currency of the universe. Lorien was a young merchant, and he believed in the power of gold. With a chest full of gleaming coins, he sailed to a remote island, an isolated community famous for its peaceful and prosperous way of life. He believed that with this precious metal, he could buy anything: Upon his arrival, Lorien offered his gold for food and lodging, only to be met with polite confusion. The islanders happily accepted his gold coins as pretty sparkling pebbles, but they held no transactional value. Their economy did not run on metal. Their currency was belief stones. They were simple, smooth river stones with no material value whatsoever. A stone was given as a promise, a symbol of help, rendered a gratitude recorded. Its value lay entirely in the shared faith and trust of the community. Lorien, with his chest full of gold, was in fact the poorest person on the island, for he possessed none of their true currency belief. He felt helpless, unable to comprehend a world where gold was just a rock. An elder of the island sat with him. She did not explain economics. She handed him a belief stone and said, "This stone is not a stone. It is the belief that my neighbor will help me mend my roof when the storm comes. It is the belief that the fisherman will share his catch. The stone itself is nothing. The belief it represents is everything." A truth exploded in Lorien's mind. He had been worshipping the symbol of wealth, while these people were living from the very source of it. He began to participate in the community, not by trading gold, but by offering his skills. He helped them mend a boat. In return, he received his first belief stone. Holding it, he felt not the weight of metal, but the warmth of trust. He understood that value doesn't reside in an object, but in the belief that people invest in it. The most powerful currency that shapes reality is what we profoundly believe. Your expectation is the architect of your reality. Life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you expect. An expectation of scarcity will create scarcity. An expectation of abundance will create abundance. The universe's flow of prosperity does not respond to what you possess. It responds to what you believe you deserve to receive. The story of Anya, a potter, is a perfect illustration. Anya's talent was undeniable. The vases and bowls she made were exquisitely shaped, yet she always sold them for a pittance, and her life was a constant struggle. The reason was that Anya held a core belief that art is a poor profession, and I'm not good at business. She expected customers to haggle. She expected them not to see the true value in her work, and the universe, through her customers, mirrored that expectation perfectly. People would come marvel at the beauty of her pots, then offer a low price, and Anya, expecting nothing more, would nod in agreement. Her reality was an exact replica of her inner belief blueprint. She believed she was not worthy of a high price, and therefore she was never offered one. One day, the cheap gray clay she always used ran out. The only option left was a rare red clay at 3 times the cost. To avoid losing money, she was forced to do something she had never dared: price the new red clay pots significantly higher. With a trembling heart, she placed a red vase on her stall at 10 times the usual price. At that moment, a wealthy patron who had passed her stall hundreds of times without a second glance suddenly stopped. He was drawn not just by the new color, but by a new energy. He saw a work that was priced with confidence. He did not haggle. He paid the asking price and said, "Finally, a piece that is worthy of its maker's talent." That single transaction shattered Anya's entire belief system. She realized it wasn't the more expensive clay, but her own belief in the product's value that had changed everything. Her income had never been determined by her skill, but by her expectation. A sustainable breakthrough comes not from strategy, but from a quiet yet powerful shift in belief. Every belief you hold acts as a magnet, and the universe must rearrange itself to match the new magnetic field you broadcast. A healing practice auditing your treasury of beliefs. Your financial reality is built on a foundation of belief. To rebuild the structure, you must first inspect the foundation. Excavate your core beliefs. Sit in a quiet place with a pen and paper. Complete the following sentences with the very first thought that comes to mind without judgment. Money is. Rich people are always. To have a lot of money, I have to. The reason I don't have more money is because, financially, I only deserve. Identify the thieves in your treasury. Read your answers. Which beliefs feel heavy, constricting, or negative? Circle them. These are the thieves that are silently draining prosperity from your inner treasury. Mint your new currency. For each negative belief you circled, write a new, powerful, and positive belief to replace it. This is you minting new currency for your universe. Old belief. Money is hard to earn. New belief. I am a magnet for prosperity, and it flows to me easily from multiple sources. Old belief. I'm not good at managing money. New belief. I manage my money wisely, and my wealth grows every day. Old belief. I don't deserve to live comfortably. New belief. I am wholly worthy of a life of abundance, joy, and freedom. Transact with your new belief. Choose one of your new beliefs and live with it for the entire day. Actively look for evidence, no matter how small, that this new belief is true. If your new belief is abundance is everywhere, notice the abundance of leaves on a tree, books in a library, or smiles from strangers. This will train your mind to accept and transact with this new currency. Remember, you are the master of the mint for your own life. The power to reshape your financial world lies not in external factors, but in the sacred space of your core beliefs. The change begins now with the choice of what you will believe. Chapter 8. The companion named Doubt. To become a guide, one who leads others through the treacherous whispering mountains, and Acolyte's final test was to cross the echoing chasm alone. The chasm was notorious not just for its physical dangers, but for how it preyed upon the mind. It was said that the wind that blew through it would whisper back a traveler's own deepest doubts. Elara, a young acolyte, began her journey on a thin rope bridge. The moment she took her first step, the whispers started. You are not strong enough. The rope will break. You are going to fail. It was the voice of her own inner doubt, now amplified by the wind. A profound fear seized her. In the mist below, she saw a colossal shadow forming a dragon of failure. Elara's first instinct was to fight. She gritted her teeth, trying to shout down the whispers. She suppressed her doubt, telling herself to be stronger. But the more she resisted, the louder the whispers grew, the larger the shadow dragon became, and the more violently the bridge shook. Her resistance was feeding her own enemy. In desperation, she remembered her master's teaching, do not fight the echo. Listen to it. She stopped in the middle of the swaying bridge. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath. Instead of banishing the whispers, she listened to them with compassion. To the whisper, you are not strong enough, she calmly replied in her mind. I hear your concern for my safety. Thank you. I will check each step with care. To the whisper, the rope will break, she thought. That is a possibility. I will test my weight on each plank before I cross. She did not agree with the doubt, but she acknowledged its presence and its albeit distorted intention to protect her. She treated it as a cautious companion, not a malevolent foe. And a miracle occurred. Once it was heard instead of resisted, the whispers lost their emotional charge. They became neutral reminders. The great dragon in the mist dissolved, leaving nothing but the mist itself. Doubt had not vanished, but it had moved from a fearsome monster to a quiet companion. Elara crossed the rest of the bridge, not in the absence of fear, but with mastery over it. Change your relationship with doubt. It is not a wall blocking your path, but a gateway to deeper understanding. The great dragons or fears you face are merely the exaggerated shadows cast by your own inner doubt. Their power is not inherent. It is nourished by your resistance and shrinks when met with understanding. Consider the story of Kalin, a brilliant architect. He had a revolutionary design for a new aqueduct system that could bring life to an arid region of the city. The design was brilliant but unconventional. As Kalin prepared to present his plan to the city council, he was assaulted by a storm of doubt. What if the physics calculations are wrong? What if it collapses? What if they laugh at me and I lose my reputation? The questions paralyzed him. He postponed the presentation, checking his drawings hundreds of times. The dragon of humiliation and failure seemed to breathe fire in his mind. On the morning of the presentation, Kalen felt he could barely walk. But instead of burning his drawings, he sat down and did something different. He took out a blank sheet of parchment and began to interview his doubt. He did not fight it. He invited it to speak. He wrote down every question his doubt was asking. To the question, "Is the foundation strong enough?" he calmly wrote the answer beside it. "I have consulted with master stonemasons and designed a foundation twice as strong as required." Into the question, "Could the water flow be too strong?" he wrote, "I have designed 3 spillway gates to manage pressure during heavy rains." He used each doubt not as a reason to stop, but as an invitation to clarify and strengthen his plan. Doubt was not a signal to retreat. It was an invitation to move forward with greater awareness and consciousness. When Kalen walked into the council chamber, he did not walk in with an absence of doubt, but with a confidence forged by having confronted it. When the council members posed skeptical questions, he did not flinch because he had already asked himself those same questions and had clear answers ready. They were impressed not just by the design, but by his thoroughness and quiet self-assurance. The project was approved. Kalen learned that the ultimate goal is not to eliminate doubt entirely. The goal is to establish the correct order. You are the master, the driver of your destiny's vehicle. Doubt can sit in the passenger's seat, but it is never ever allowed to take the wheel. A healing practice, a dialogue with your companion. Instead of fighting your doubt, invite it to a dialogue. This exercise helps you turn an inner saboteur into a wise advisor. Invite the companion to speak. When you feel doubt about a goal, a decision, or yourself, find a quiet space. Take a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. Title the left column, "The Voice of Doubt," and the right column, "The Voice of Wisdom." Listen without judgment. In the left column, write down everything your doubt is whispering to you. Every fear, every what-if scenario, every reason why you might fail. Do not argue or defend. Simply acknowledge and allow it to be heard. Respond with wisdom. Now move to the right column. For each point doubt has raised, write a calm, compassionate, and wise response. This is not the time for blind optimism, but for acknowledging the concern and offering a balanced perspective or a constructive action. Doubt, "I'm not good enough to do this." Wisdom, "I hear your concern about my abilities. That's a valid point to consider, so what is one small step I can take right now to feel a little more confident? Doubt, "If I fail, it will be so embarrassing." Wisdom, "I understand you fear judgment, but my growth is more important than others' opinions. Every attempt, successful or not, is a valuable lesson." Re-establishing roles. After you've completed the dialogue, look at both columns. Silently thank the voice of doubt for trying to protect you and for pointing out areas that need attention. Then consciously choose to let the voice of wisdom guide your actions. In this way, you have put doubt back in its proper place in the passenger seat. Your journey does not demand perfection or unwavering courage. It only asks that you be the conscious and compassionate driver of your own life, recognizing that every emotion, even doubt, can serve your evolution when it is met with understanding and love. Chapter 9. The Silent Symphony of Manifestation. Linnea was the caretaker of the Lord's conservatory, a magical place that could nurture plants from the most distant lands. She had an innate gift, a silent understanding of the plant world. One day the Lord received a priceless gift, 5 seeds of the moon orchid, a flower of unparalleled beauty, said to bloom only in the moonlight. He entrusted them to Linnea, promising a handsome reward if she could make them sprout. For the first time in her life, Linnea felt pressure. She abandoned her usual intuitive methods and began to use words. She read ancient poems about growth to the seeds. She prayed whispered powerful affirmations and commanded them to sprout. She used all the right words, the most powerful incantations she knew. But her energy was saturated with anxiety and a craving for results, and the seeds lay still silent in the earth. Her noisy affirmations born of fear had created a chaotic vibration preventing life from emerging. Desperate Linnea sat alone in the quiet conservatory at night. She gave up all verbal effort. She simply placed her hands over the soil where the seeds slept. She did not plead, nor did she demand. She entered a state of profound stillness. Closing her eyes, she didn't think about a blooming flower. She felt it. She felt the urge of a green sprout stirring, felt the slow unfurling of petals. She became the very vibration of life, a silent symphony of creation, pure and untainted by need or desire. A few days later, from that very soil, tiny green shoots stretched forth. The moon orchids grew quickly with a powerful vitality and finally opened into magnificent blossoms that radiated a light that seemed not of this world. Linnea understood then that her power had never been in the words she spoke, but in the silent vibration she could become. The universe did not respond to her vocabulary. It responded to the silent symphony that emanated from her entire being. The true language of manifestation is beyond words. Power is not born from noisy affirmations, but arises from the silence in the still space between thoughts. It is in that place of pure potential that your intention is transmitted most powerfully. Your ability to attract abundance lies not in what you say, but in the purity with which you can transmit your energy. Consider the story of Marius, a mosaic artist. He was commissioned to create a giant mosaic for the main hall of the city library. The theme was wisdom and connection. Marius was stuck. The theme was too abstract. How could one depict wisdom in stone? He tried to approach it logically. He wrote down lists of words, books, scholars, stars, community. But when he tried to translate those words into images, his designs were cold, literal, and soulless. He was trying to tell a story with grammar, not with art. Frustrated, he abandoned his lists. He went and sat in the vast, quiet library hall. He stopped asking his intellect. He asked his heart, "What does wisdom feel like? For me, what is the symbol of connection?" And in that stillness, an image arose on his mind, a great ancient tree. Its roots sank deep into the earth, symbolizing ancient knowledge and a connection to the source. Its branches reached for the heavens, sheltering countless flocks of birds, symbolizing community and the sharing of knowledge. The great tree became his powerful personal symbol. It was not a verbal translation, but a direct bridge to the energetic frequency of the concept. Working from this central symbol, creativity flowed through Marius effortlessly. The finished mosaic was breathtaking. Viewers did not just see a tree. They felt the stability of wisdom and the warmth of connection. The universe responds more easily to symbols and images than to logic and words. That symbol had become a powerful condensed tool for Marius to transmit a complex intention from his inner world into the universal field of energy. He had become a clear channel for his desire. A healing practice honing your energetic channel. Your power of manifestation lies in your ability to transmit a pure vibration. This exercise helps you shift from saying to becoming. Distill your intention into a feeling. Choose one of your desires. Instead of describing it in a long sentence, ask yourself, if this were to come true, what is the core feeling I would experience? It might be profound peace, soaring freedom, creative joy, or warm connection. Seize upon that feeling. Enter the stillness. Find a quiet place. Sit comfortably, close your eyes. Instead of repeating affirmations, simply focus on your breath. Allow your mind to settle. Your goal is to find and abide in the silent space between your thoughts. Transmit the pure vibration. In that state of stillness, gently call up the feeling you identified in step 1. Don't think about it, become it. Let that feeling fill every cell in your body. Imagine you are a lighthouse silently broadcasting this pure frequency out into the universe. Remain in this state for a few minutes. Create an energetic anchor. After your practice, take a small piece of paper or a smooth stone. Draw a simple symbol that represents the feeling of your fulfilled desire. It could be a spiral, a sun, a wave, whatever resonates with you. This is your personal energetic anchor, a tether to your vibration. Place it somewhere you see it often. Every time you see it, don't think, just take a second to reconnect with the feeling it represents. You are released from the pressure of having to find the right words to pray or affirm. The deepest communication is silent. Your true power lies in the purity of your being, the clarity of your intention, and the resonance of your inner symphony that only the universe can hear. Chapter 10. The Unifying Silence. Queen Anya had ruled her kingdom for many years, with wisdom and a kind heart. One year, a great drought fell upon the land, brutal and persistent. The rivers ran dry, the fields cracked, and the people began to panic. Her advisors and generals came to her with desperate plans to ration the water, to take grain by force from neighboring lands, to hold loud ceremonies pleading with the gods. The pressure on the queen was immense. Her council urged her to do something, to act, to show her strength. They wanted speeches, decrees, and resounding prayers, but Anya knew that action born from a place of fear and lack would only amplify the energy of the drought. Instead of following their advice, she did something that stunned the entire court. She entered a period of absolute silence. She canceled all meetings. She gave no speeches. She retreated to the highest tower in the castle, a simple room with a view over her withering lands. She did not ask for rain. She did not visualize clouds. She did something far more powerful. She entered a state of remembrance. Closing her eyes, she felt the memory of rain on her skin. She smelled the scent of wet earth, felt the sensation of walking through lush green fields. She did not want rain. She silently and completely became the feeling of a kingdom whose thirst had been quenched. Her silence was not empty. It was a silence filled to the brim with the reality of abundance. She was a prosperous queen of a prosperous land. Several days later, dark clouds began to gather on the horizon, not with the violence of a thunderstorm, but with the gentle certainty of a promise kept. A slow, soaking rain began to fall, reviving the thirsty land. The queen had not made the rain. Her deep, silent state of unification with the frequency of abundance had created the conditions for the rain's return. She had proven that the ultimate power lies not in doing, but in being. The highest level of attraction lies not in words, actions, or intentions, but in the art of silence. When you cease all inner dialogue of wanting and striving, you enter a frequency where your true vibration is heard by the universe. The universe is not moved by the volume of your plea. It responds only to the depth of your unification, the degree to which you have become one with the frequency of what you seek. Many years after the story of the lion statue, Finian was now a master sculptor, a living legend. A young duke approached him with a commission: "Carve for me the image of perfect peace." For weeks, Finian just sat before a block of flawless marble. He did not sketch, he did not strike his chisel, he just sat in silence. His apprentices began to whisper, fearing their master had lost his gift. The duke sent messengers repeatedly urging him to begin. Finian felt the pull of the outer world demanding that he do something, but he knew that peace could not be created by effort. It could only be expressed through unification. His silence was not idleness. It was the final act of surrender. He was emptying himself of all concepts about peace so that he could become a pure channel for peace. Then one morning, after weeks of stillness, he stood up. He picked up a single chisel, and with absolute certainty he struck the stone one time. A large piece of marble broke away along a natural fault line he had perceived in his silence. What remained was a simple organic form that radiated a peace so profound it took one's breath away. It was not an image of peace. It was peace expressed in stone. The work had been revealed, not made. Finian explained to his students, "My work was not in the strike of the chisel. My work was in the weeks of silence that preceded it. When I became one with peace, the stone itself showed me where to touch." This final step of the art requires the courage to be utterly still and to trust the sacred flow of life. Just as a flower needs no voice to attract its perfect pollinator, your unified and silent energy is in itself the most powerful invitation. When you can rest in that silence, you become a natural magnet, drawing all things to you without effort. The ultimate practice, abiding in abundance. This is not an exercise to do, but a state to abide in. This is the final practice, the simplest and the most profound. Choose a state of being. Select a single word that represents the state you wish to become. It could be peace, prosperity, love, creativity, health. Surrender all effort. Find a quiet space and sit down. For the next 5 to 10 minutes, your only goal is to surrender all effort. No visualizing, no affirming, no praying. Abide in is. Gently hold your chosen word in your awareness. Do not repeat it like a mantra. Simply let it be there. Feel it. Breathe it. Become it. Imagine you are already so completely filled with this state that there is nothing left to desire. You are not seeking peace. You are peace. You are not longing for love. You are love. The unifying silence. Allow even the word itself to dissolve, leaving only the pure, silent feeling. This is the silence of fullness. Rest in this state. There is nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to achieve. You are already there. Carry the silence into life. When you open your eyes, try to carry a part of this silent fullness with you into your day. Let it be the gentle background music for all your actions. This is your truest and most powerful point of attraction. The journey outward has ended. The journey inward has led you to the threshold of sacred stillness. Now there is nothing left to pursue. There is only a state to be, and from that state of being, all things will naturally flow to you. Chapter 11. Stop broadcasting. Start receiving. Kalen was a young diplomat assigned a nearly impossible task to negotiate a peace treaty between two mountain tribes who had been enemies for generations. With a passionate heart, Kalen began by broadcasting his intentions. He publicly declared his grand plan for peace. He traveled tirelessly between the two territories, passionately explaining his vision, detailing every step and affirming his noble intentions. He believed his transparency and passion would convince them, but the opposite happened. His constant broadcasting created resistance. Each tribe became suspicious, assuming his plan favored the other side. His words were distorted, his intentions were questioned, and the animosity deepened. His loud attempts to talk about peace had inadvertently extinguished any chance for it to bloom. Defeated and crestfallen, Kalen retreated to a neutral monastery in the mountains. The old abbot, after listening to his story, said one simple thing: "You have tried to shout at the storm to make it quiet. Now try becoming the quiet in the eye of the storm." An awakening occurred in Kalen. He had to stop talking about peace and start embodying it. He cut off all contact, ceased all attempts to persuade. He simply remained at the monastery, entering a silent state of absolute trust, holding the vision of an already established peace in his mind. He stopped broadcasting and started receiving. He had created a space of trust for the universe to begin its orchestration. And then miracles began to unfold. An unexpected snowstorm forced a shepherd from each tribe to take shelter in the same cave. There they were forced to cooperate to survive. Through days of sharing warmth and food, they discovered their common humanity. That small event, orchestrated by the universe in Kalen's silent space, accomplished more than all his speeches. Hearing the news, the tribe chieftains grew curious about the silent diplomat. They sought him out. This time, Kalen did not present a plan. He just listened. He listened to the pain, the losses, the grievances that had stretched across generations. He listened with his entire being. That very act of deep listening, the accepting space he created, melted the ice of hatred. The treaty was signed not because of the words he spoke, but because of his powerful silence. True power does not lie in constantly broadcasting your desires to the world. When you consciously stop talking about your goals, you truly open the channel to listen and receive the universe's orchestration. Silence is not passivity, it is concentrated power. When your energy is not dissipated through words, it condenses, creating a far stronger magnetic pull. Consider the story of Elias, a master luthier. His fame was legendary, for the instruments he made seemed to possess a soul. When he grew old, he decided to find an apprentice to pass his secrets on to. Dozens of young candidates came to him. All of them tried to impress him by broadcasting their abilities. They spoke endlessly of their talents, their ambitions, their passions. They demonstrated complex wood-carving techniques. Elias listened politely, but he felt nothing. Their energy was too noisy, too hungry for validation. Weeks passed, and he had nearly given up hope. Then a young woman named Anya arrived. She brought no grand creations with her, only a simple piece of wood. When Elias asked why she wanted to be a luthier, Anya did not answer with a speech. She simply asked a question in return. "Master, what is the story of the wood? How do you hear it?" That question changed everything. It showed that she had come not to broadcast, but to receive. Throughout their conversation, she listened more than she spoke. She listened with her ears, her eyes, and her entire presence. That deep listening created a magnetic pull. Elias knew that a person who could listen so deeply to a human being could one day learn to listen to the soul of the wood. He chose Anya not for what she said, but for the quality of her silence and the depth of her listening. Her energy had spoken louder than any words. A healing practice, the practice of magnetic silence. This exercise helps you shift from a state of telling to a state of listening, turning your silence into your most powerful tool of attraction. Seal your intention. Think of a goal or desire that is important to you. Write it on a small piece of paper, then fold it and put it away. This symbolic act is like sealing your intention and entrusting it to the universe. Make a commitment to yourself that for the next 24 hours you will not speak about this goal to anyone. Shift your communication mode. In your next conversation, set a silent intention to listen more than you speak. The goal is not just to wait for your turn to talk, but to truly listen to understand. Listen to the words, the tone, and the emotions behind what the other person is saying. Observe how this shift impacts the dynamic of the conversation. Take a listening walk. Spend 10 minutes taking a walk with no music or podcasts. Just walk and listen. Listen to the sounds of the city, the wind through the leaves, the bird song. Listen to the vibration of the world around you. This practice trains you to shift from being a broadcaster to a sensitive receiver. Observe the orchestration. During the period you remain silent about your goal, pay special attention to new ideas that pop into your head, chance encounters or opportunities that seem to appear out of nowhere. These are often the responses from the universe, the things you can only hear when you have stopped making your own noise. You do not need to convince, prove, or explain. Your greatest power lies in your ability to become a silent, receptive, and welcoming center. When you do that, you allow your very energy to speak, and you open the channel to hear the universe's reply. That is the shift from effort to elegance, from struggle to harmony. Chapter 12. The Miracle Behind the Curtain. Finn was a master shipbuilder. He was given a great responsibility by the Queen to build a legendary exploration vessel, the Stargazer. It was to be the pinnacle of his career. Finn had a perfect detailed plan. Every plank of wood, every coil of rope, every bolt of sailcloth was meticulously calculated. He had a rigid timeline, but then the universe seemed to have a different plan. A great storm delayed the shipment of the special ironwood needed for the hull. The most talented sailmaker suddenly fell ill. A rare tree resin used for waterproofing became scarce. Finn panicked. He tried to force his plan to work. He sought out inferior substitute materials and pushed his workers to the point of exhaustion. He was attached to the how, and that attachment was creating a weak ship and a stressed-out artisan. He was trying to direct every detail of a play far grander than he could see. One evening, standing amidst the chaos of his shipyard, utterly defeated, he saw a child playing with a leaf boat in a puddle. The child did not force the boat. They simply placed it gently on the water and smiled, watching the ripples and the soft breeze carry it along. A deep peace washed over Finn. He realized he had been trying to command the ocean instead of humbly building a ship worthy of it. He surrendered. He stopped fighting. He gave his workers a rest. Returning to his study, he looked at the ship's blueprint and said to the unseen, "I have done my part. Now I trust in your choreography." And then the miracles began to happen. Backstage. The next day, a foreign merchant ship, blown off course by that very same storm, pulled into port for shelter. Its cargo the exact rare ironwood Finn needed. The doctor aboard that ship happened to be an expert on the sailmaker's illness and cured him. A young apprentice, while walking in the nearby woods, stumbled upon a small grove of trees that produced the very resin Finn was looking for. Everything fell into place, not according to Finn's plan, but according to a divine and far more perfect orchestration. The stargazer was completed not only on time, but stronger and more beautiful than his original design could have ever imagined. Finn had learned that his role was not to direct the play, but to perform his part brilliantly and trust that the entire production was in the most capable of hands. Life operates like a grand theater. While you are focused on the main stage, the most important arrangements are happening silently behind the curtain. Your role is to trust, not to direct. Your attachment to how and when your blessings must arrive is the greatest obstacle to a grander plan unfolding. Listen to the story of Elara, a winemaker in the valley. Her wine was famous throughout the region for its exquisite taste, a wine that was only sold when its time had come. An impatient young nobleman bought a plot of land next to her vineyard. He decided he too would make wine, but faster and more efficiently. He used new techniques to force the grapes to grow quickly, harvested them early, and tried everything to rush the fermentation process. He constantly checked, measured, and tried to force a result, and his first batch of wine was sour and thin. Frustrated, he went to Elara to ask for her secret. Elara did not lead him to her workshop. She led him down to her wine cellar, a dark, cool, and silent place. She pointed to the great oak barrels and said softly, "The secret lies not in what I do, but in what I don't do. The sun has done its work. The earth has done hers. Now the miracle is happening in the darkness and the silence. The wine is becoming itself. My role now is not to interfere. My role is to trust. Your desire is like a seed sprouting deep underground. Though you cannot see it, growth is happening constantly. The breakthrough comes not from you forcing the timeline, but at the most perfect moment according to the universe's divine orchestration. A healing practice entrusting to the unseen director. This is a ritual of deep surrender and trust, helping you shift the burden of control to a greater intelligence. Write a letter to the universe. Choose a desire or a problem that you have been tirelessly trying to control. On a piece of paper, write a letter to the universe, to Source, to God. Clearly state your desire, the declaration of entrustment. At the end of the letter, write the following sentence with all your heart. I have done my part with all my love and ability. I now completely and trustingly surrender the how, the when, and the final outcome to your divine and perfect orchestration. I trust in the miracle behind the curtain. Perform a ritual of release. Fold the letter. You can choose to safely burn it, symbolizing its release to the heavens. Bury it in the earth, symbolizing planting it as a seed, or let it float down a river, symbolizing its release into the flow of life. This physical act is important. It sends a powerful signal to your subconscious that you are truly letting go. Abide in trust. In the days that follow, whenever you feel the urge to worry, to control, or to figure out the how, gently remind yourself, the play is being orchestrated behind the curtain. Then bring your attention back to your breath, back to the present moment, and rest in the peace of knowing you are being taken care of. You do not need to see every step to believe that the path is being laid for you. Your most courageous and powerful act is sometimes simply to stand still, breathe deeply, and trust completely in the miracle that is unfolding behind the curtain. Chapter 13. The Yes is Always There. Elian was a young scholar on a quest to find the Whispering Well, a legendary well said to answer any question. He believed that if he could formulate the perfect question, the most eloquent and worthy plea, the well would grant him the knowledge he sought. When he arrived, he began to execute his plan. He read aloud complex questions about the nature of the universe, about his own destiny. He pleaded, he rationalized, he strained to convince the well that he was worthy of an answer, but in return there was only silence. The water's surface remained perfectly still. Desperate, he began to shout his questions into the well, believing it was being stubborn, or worse, that it had judged and rejected him. He was trying to convince the universe to say yes. An old woman, the well's caretaker, had been silently observing his futile efforts. She said nothing. She simply approached, holding 2 tuning forks. She gently struck the first one, and a clear note sang through the air. Then she handed the other tuning fork to Elian. It was completely silent. She gestured for him to listen to the ringing note and to try with his own mind to resonate with it. Elian understood. He stopped questioning. He stopped pleading. He just closed his eyes and focused his entire being on feeling the frequency of that other note. He tuned his own mind. Gradually, as his inner state began to vibrate in harmony with that clear sound, a miracle occurred. The tuning fork in his own hand began to hum, vibrating in resonance. And in that exact moment, the water in the well stirred, and the answer he sought arose in his mind, not in words, but as a pure and clear understanding. Elian realized a great truth. The well had never been refusing him. It was always broadcasting the answer on a specific frequency. His job was not to ask a better question, but to become a better receiver. The yes had always been there. He just needed to tune himself to its frequency to be able to hear it. The universe's default answer is yes. The universe is not an entity that needs convincing. Its consent for you is a constant signal, a background frequency that is always broadcasting. The issue is not whether the universe agrees, but whether you are tuned to the channel of that agreement. Your role is that of a radio operator who must personally adjust their inner frequency to resonate precisely with the frequency of the abundance you seek. The universe is a faithful mirror. It does not judge. It only reflects. It will perfectly amplify whatever signal you broadcast. Look at Thomas, a baker. He was a good man, but his bakery was always struggling. Deep down, he believed he was just a simple baker, unworthy of great success. He would look at the fancy pastry shop across the street and think, "That's another world." The signal he constantly broadcast was, "I am only worthy of struggle." And the universe, as a perfect mirror, reflected that back to him, giving him a life of just barely getting by. One day, a fire broke out at the pastry shop. Without a moment's hesitation, Thomas rushed in, not to save property, but to help people. In that moment, he was no longer Thomas, the poor baker. He acted from a place of inherent value and strength. That evening, sitting in his own bakery, he felt a profound shift. For the first time, he did not feel like a man begging life for scraps. He felt the quiet pride of a man of value. He had stopped begging for a yes and had begun to embody it. His energy changed. The next day he baked, not with the hope of making a sale, but with the joy of sharing his gift. The townspeople, now seeing him as a hero, came to buy his bread with a new appreciation. The grateful pastry shop owner offered to teach him the art of fine pastries. His business blossomed. The universe had not suddenly become more generous. It simply began to reflect the new and powerful signal Thomas was now broadcasting: I am a person of value. I am worthy of abundance. He had moved from the mindset of a beggar to that of a receiver claiming what was already his. A healing practice. Tuning to the yes frequency. This practice is not about changing the universe. It is about changing yourself so you can hear the agreement that has always been there. Identify the desired frequency. Think of something you desire. Instead of focusing on the object or outcome, identify the feeling frequency of the fulfilled state. For a new job, the frequency might be creativity and recognition. For a relationship, it might be connection and safety. Become the radio operator. Sit quietly. Imagine inside you is the tuning knob of an old radio. Right now it might be tuned to a staticky channel of anxiety or doubt. Tune to the yes channel. Take a deep breath. In your mind, slowly turn that radio knob. As you turn, consciously release the frequencies of uncertainty or unworthiness. Keep turning until you feel you have locked on to a clear, stable channel of your desired frequency, e.g., the feeling of recognition. It should feel calm, certain, and light. Listen for the agreement. Once you are tuned in, say nothing. Ask for nothing. Simply listen. In this state of silent alignment, acknowledge a truth. The yes is here. Permission has already been granted. The universe is and has been broadcasting its consent on this channel. Your only job is to stay tuned. Act from the yes frequency. As you go about your day, ask yourself, how would a person who is living on this yes frequency think, feel, and act? You will find your actions become more confident, intuitive, and effortless because they spring from a place of alignment, not from a place of seeking. The entire spiritual journey is not about convincing a reluctant deity to bless you. It is a journey of self-calibration so that you can realize you are standing in an ocean of consent. Your task was never to beg for a yes. Your task was always to become a resonance for the yes that is, and always will be, waiting for you. Chapter 14. Unlocking the Treasure Within. When Liam's grandmother passed away, the inheritance she left him was a great disappointment. A barren, rocky piece of land where no plants could grow. He had hoped for chests of gold or a magnificent estate, but all he received was a plot that everyone considered worthless. Along with the deed, his grandmother had left a single note: the treasure is not in the land, but in the understanding of the land. Liam dismissed it as the ramblings of an old woman. He tried to sell the land, but no one wanted it. He looked at the plot through the eyes of lack, seeing only rocks and aridity. He was searching for a physical, external treasure, and so he was completely blind to the true wealth. In a fit of desperation, before deciding to abandon it for good, he spent one last night on his grandmother's land. Sitting under a sky full of stars in the boundless silence, her message echoed in his mind. This time he stopped looking at the land. He began to feel it. He felt the way the wind moved through the rock crevices, the way specific mosses grew only where there were underground springs, the way the boulders absorbed and retained the sun's warmth. Something magical happened. He didn't feel like he was learning something new. He felt as if he were remembering a long-forgotten language. He was unlocking an innate wisdom that had always been there. With this understanding of the land, he realized the plot wasn't barren at all. It was a masterpiece of nature. The cliffs formed a natural fortress against the wind. The boulders were giant natural heat radiators. The underground springs were an endless source of life. He did not sell the land. He became an architect, designing and building unique homes carved into the rock, cooled in the summer by the underground water and warmed in the winter by solar energy. A prosperous and harmonious community was born from that worthless piece of land. Liam learned that the greatest treasure was not buried gold. The treasure was the vault of innate wisdom within each person waiting to be unlocked. True wealth is not something you find, but something you unlock from within. Your interaction with prosperity is shaped entirely by your inner world, in the feelings of your heart, in the corridors of your beliefs, and in the vault of your expectations. The universe is simply a mirror. When you change the inner dialogue, the outer physical world has no choice but to rearrange itself to accurately reflect that declaration. Consider the story of Isolde, a traveling storyteller. Her stories were beautiful, but they were always tinged with the tragedy of loss, struggle, and cruel fate. And her life had become a faithful mirror to those tales. She lived in a state of constant lack, was treated with pity, and was plagued by misfortune. The inner declaration she constantly broadcast was, "Life is a beautiful tragedy." One day she arrived in a village that was celebrating a festival of light. No one there wanted to hear sad stories. A child ran up to her and asked, "Ma'am, do you know any stories about miracles?" That innocent question awakened Isolde. She realized that in her entire life she had never allowed herself to tell or even believe in a story with a happy ending. That night by the bonfire she did not retell her old tales. For the first time she tried to weave a new one, a story of hope, of unexpected miracles, of discovered inner worth. As she began to tell these new stories, her energy completely changed. Her audience was not just moved, they were uplifted and inspired. They didn't just give her food, they invited her into their homes, shared their festival, and bestowed gifts upon her. Her outer world began to restructure itself to match her new inner declaration, "Life is a magical adventure." Isolde didn't need to change her profession. She only needed to change the story she told herself. She had to open the vault in her own consciousness first. She had lifted the curtain on her old way of thinking, and abundance naturally flowed in. A healing practice, rewriting the script of abundance. You are the author, director, and lead actor in the story of your life. This exercise helps you reclaim that creative power, identify the old script. Take a moment to be honest with yourself. What is the story you usually tell yourself about your financial life and your abundance? Write it down briefly, as if you were summarizing a movie. For example, this is the story of a kind, hard-working person who always has to struggle and never truly gets to be free. Acknowledge the inner director. Acknowledge that you are the one who has been maintaining this story. This is not about blame, but about reclaiming your power. Say to yourself silently, "I realize this is the story I have chosen to believe. Now I choose to write a new one." Draft the new script. On a fresh sheet of paper, write the title of your new story. For example, "The Joyful and Abundant Life of Your Name." Then write a new summary for this story. Write it in the present tense as if it is happening now. For example, "This is the story of a person who lives in harmony and trust. Money and opportunities come to them easily and naturally because they know their inner worth is infinite and they are wholly deserving of all good things." Daily rehearsal. This new script is your most powerful inner declaration. Read it every morning when you wake up. Feel the emotions of this new story. During the day, whenever you face a choice, ask yourself, what would the protagonist of my new story do in this situation? Lifting the curtain. This practice is the conscious act of lifting the curtain on old ways of thinking. By consistently focusing on and embodying your new story, you are changing your inner declaration, and the universe, that faithful mirror, will have no choice but to reflect back this new and magnificent masterpiece. The search is over. The treasure has been located. It was never outside. It was always within, waiting for you to unlock it. The only task that remains is to live from that inner wealth, to tell your new and true story, and to watch with joy as the world rearranges itself around you. Chapter 15. The Law of the Echo. Finn was a young boy who lived near the Whispering Canyon. He was terrified of the place. The village elders said it was a sacred place, but to Finn, it was empty and frightening. Whenever he felt lonely or angry, he would run to the canyon's edge and shout bitter words into it. "I hate you. You are so empty." And the canyon, with perfect fidelity, would always echo back the exact same words. "Hate you. So empty." This only strengthened Finn's belief that the canyon was a malevolent entity. He did not realize that he was broadcasting a signal of hostility and lack, and that the canyon was simply a perfect mirror reflecting that signal back to him. One day, his grandmother, a wise woman, led him there. She offered no explanation. She simply smiled, cupped her hands around her mouth, and called into the canyon with a voice full of love and joy, "I love you. You are so beautiful and full of life." And the canyon, with the same warmth and joy, echoed back, "Love you, beautiful and full of life." Finn was stunned. He suddenly understood. The canyon had no opinion of its own. It was neither good nor bad. It was simply a mirror, a perfect echo. It wasn't his enemy. It was his greatest teacher. It had taught him the most fundamental law of existence. What you send out is precisely what you will receive. The universe is a perfect reflecting mirror. Every energy you emit, from your most secret thoughts to your spoken words to your deepest feelings, is registered and reflected back to you with flawless accuracy. What you receive in life is not punishment or reward, but simply the echo of what you have sent out. In every moment you are a broadcaster, and reality is the feedback signal. This is not a moral law created by humans. This is a law of energy operating with mathematical precision. The frequency you broadcast will attract a corresponding frequency. Like attracts like. Consider the story of Marcus, a merchant in a bustling marketplace. He was a hard-working man, but he lived in a state of competition and anxiety. When a neighboring vendor had a good sale, Marcus would feel a pang of bitterness, as if that success had been taken from him. He silently sent out energies of envy and scarcity, and his world reflected it. His business was stagnant. Customers found him tense and unapproachable, and his life was a constant struggle. One day a sage passed by and bought a small item. After paying, he said to Marcus, "I bless your prosperity." The idea of actively blessing another's abundance was completely foreign to Marcus. That afternoon he decided to try an experiment. The baker next door, Anna, had just received a large order. Instead of his usual feeling of envy, Marcus closed his eyes and sent out a sincere thought. "Congratulations on your success, Anna. May prosperity always come to you." An unusual feeling of lightness spread through him. By blessing another, he had changed his own frequency from lack to abundance. His energy changed. The next day he was more open and cheerful. Customers were drawn to this new warmth. A wealthy merchant, charmed by his attitude, placed an unprecedentedly large order. Marcus continued the practice of silently blessing the success of everyone around him. The more blessings he gave, the more he received. He learned that the most effective path to attract prosperity is not to demand it, but to give it away. When you become a channel for the universe's benevolent flow, that flow will return and fill you. It is not magic. It is the law of the echo, a healing practice becoming a source of abundance. You are the broadcasting center of your own universe. This exercise helps you take conscious control of the signal you send out. Check your current signal. Right now, just pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what signal am I broadcasting? Is it anxiety, peace, frustration, gratitude? Simply acknowledge it without judgment. This is the very signal the universe is reflecting back to you. Choose a new broadcast channel. Consciously choose the frequency you want to broadcast for the next hour. Pick a single word: peace, joy, generosity, creativity. Let this word be the background frequency for all your thoughts and actions for the next hour. Practice the silent blessing. As you go out and interact with the world, practice this powerful technique. When you see a thriving business, instead of just passing by, silently think, I bless the success of this place. May prosperity continue to flow to them. When you pay for an item, look at the cashier and silently think, thank you, I wish you a good and abundant day. When you see someone who has something you also desire, instead of feeling envy, immediately redirect that energy and silently say, how wonderful for them. I bless their joy and success. Feel the first echo. Pay attention to how you feel as you do this. You will realize that by becoming a source of blessings, you yourself begin to feel more blessed, abundant, and joyful. This positive feeling is the first echo returning to you, the proof that you have successfully changed your frequency. The power to change your reality lies not in begging the mirror to change the image it reflects. The power lies in changing yourself, the one standing before the mirror. Become the call you wish to hear echoed back, for in this universe nothing is ever lost. Everything you send out will, with unwavering certainty, find its way back home. Chapter 16. The Power of the Sacred Pause. Ronan was a young hunter famous for his quickness and decisiveness. One day, while tracking a rare white stag, a thick fog unexpectedly descended upon the ancient forest, and Ronan became completely lost. Panic seized him. The instincts of a man of action told him he had to do something. He ran aimlessly, crashing through thorny bushes, trying to force his way out. But each desperate action only led him deeper into the woods, leaving him more injured and more exhausted. His mind became as chaotic as the forest around him. He was stirring the water, making it murky and impossible to see the path. The urge to act immediately was leading him to his ruin. Exhausted, he collapsed beside a small lake. He had no more strength to move. He surrendered. And in that forced pause, he observed the water's surface. He realized that when he had accidentally stirred the mud from the bottom, the entire lake had become cloudy. But as he sat still, the tiny particles of silt slowly settled and the water became clear again, perfectly reflecting the sky and the trees. A profound lesson flashed within him. His mind was that lake. His panicked actions were the stirring. Ronan decided to honor this lesson. He sat still. He breathed. He became quiet. He stopped trying to find the way out, and instead, he listened. In the stillness, he began to notice things that his panic had obscured: the direction the moss grew on the tree trunks, the faint sound of a distant stream, the angle of the sun piercing through the fog. The guidance had been there all along, but it required stillness to be heard. By following these calm and clear signals, he calmly found his way out of the forest. He had learned that when you are lost, the first action is no action. When the water is murky, stop stirring. When life becomes chaotic and unclear, the solution is not more action. Action born from panic only adds to the turmoil. Herein lies the paradox. The moment you feel the most urgent need to act is precisely the moment when a sacred pause is most beneficial. Guidance needs space to speak. Consider the story of Isadora, a master weaver. She was working on the most important piece of her life, a tapestry for the queen's coronation. Halfway through, she hit a creative block. The threads seemed to tangle, the colors clashed, and the design was lifeless. Her reaction was to work harder. She spent more hours at the loom, forcing her tired hands to move, trying to break through the block with sheer willpower. But the harder she tried, the worse the tapestry became. She made mistakes, had to undo hours of work, and her frustration grew. She was violating the natural rhythm of creation. One evening, her hands aching and her spirit broken, she pushed the loom away. "I will not touch it tomorrow," she told herself. The decision was frightening, like an admission of defeat. The next day, she did not go to her workshop. Instead, she took a long walk in the fields. She watched the clouds drift by, listened to the wind, and took a nap under a tree. She was honoring the rhythm of rest, of the out-breath. She was not trying to solve the problem. She was simply creating an empty space. The morning after that, she awoke with a clear image in her mind. A new pattern, a perfect color combination that would resolve every issue in her design. The idea did not come while she was struggling at the loom. It came in the space created by her rest. She returned to her work not with frantic energy, but with a calm and inspired flow. The tapestry was completed, and it was a masterpiece more beautiful than anything she could have forced it to be. She learned that inspired action is not the enemy of rest, it is the child of rest. A healing practice. Practicing the sacred pause. This is a tool you can use anytime you feel overwhelmed, confused, or pressured. It helps you shift from a panicked reaction to a conscious response. Recognize the signal. The next time you feel an intense urge to fix a problem immediately, when you feel anxious, confused, or overwhelmed, recognize that feeling. It is the very signal from your inner wisdom that it is time to pause. Declare the pause. Say silently or aloud, "I am now entering a sacred pause." This simple declaration changes the dynamic from an unconscious reaction to a conscious choice. Step away from the problem. Set a period of time. It could be 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or an hour, during which you will completely step away from the issue. Do not think about it. Do not analyze it. Do not try to solve it. Perform an anchoring action. During this pause, perform a simple non-intellectual action that brings you back to the present moment. For example, slowly brew and savor a cup of tea. Look out the window and try to find 7 objects that are blue. Place a hand on your heart and just focus on the feeling of your breath. The goal of this action is not to be productive, but to return your energy to a still center. Listen for clarity. After the pause is over, as you return to the issue, notice if anything has changed. Often, a new perspective, a simpler solution, or simply a greater sense of peace will have emerged. The action you take now will be an inspired action born from clarity, not a panicked reaction born from fear. True power lies not in constant motion, but in the wisdom to know when to be still. The pause is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate act of strength and faith. Chapter 17. The Art of Receiving. In a small village nestled on a mountainside, there lived a healer named Alara. She was the very embodiment of giving. She gave her time, her energy, and her herbal remedies freely to anyone in need. Her entire life was a long out-breath of devotion, but while Alara was a boundless giver, she was a terrible receiver. When a family brought her a few vegetables to show their gratitude, she would refuse, saying, "Your family needs this more than I do." When the villagers offered to mend her leaking roof, she would wave them away, insisting she could manage on her own. When they praised her healing skills, she would humbly reply, "It is the herbs, not me." She believed this was the virtue of humility. But then a strange thing began to happen. Her own health started to decline. Her herb garden, once lush and vibrant, became barren. The well of energy within her seemed to be running dry. By blocking the in-breath of receiving, she was slowly suffocating herself and weakening her ability to continue giving. One day, a great old tree fell, blocking the river that flowed through the village. The water upstream began to stagnate while the fields downstream withered. The entire village came together to clear the blockage. As she watched the water begin to flow freely again, a wise old woman sat beside Alara and said, "The river must both give its water to the sea and receive water from the mountain springs. You, my dear, have tried to be a one-way river." That metaphor struck Alara like a bolt of lightning. She saw herself in the image of the blocked river. Her refusal to receive was not humility. It was a form of pride that had harmed both herself and her ability to serve her community. Alara made a conscious decision to change. The next time a mother brought her a loaf of warm bread, she did not refuse. She looked the woman in the eye, smiled warmly, and said a simple sentence from the heart, "Thank you." That act was revolutionary. As she began to gracefully receive help, gifts, and compliments, her energy was renewed. Her garden grew lush again. Her healing abilities became more powerful than ever. She had learned that to be a true giver, one must first be a masterful receiver. She had restored the sacred cycle of the in-breath and the out-breath. Giving and receiving are a single flow. Your prosperity depends not just on how much you give, but on the degree to which you allow yourself to receive. Resistance to receiving is not humility. It is an energetic dissonance that disrupts the natural flow of the universe. Consider the story of Liam, a young man who played the flute in the city square. He played beautifully, but he was always shy and felt unworthy. Whenever someone dropped a coin into his hat, Liam would cast his eyes down and mumble an incoherent word of thanks. When someone praised him, "Your flute playing is wonderful," he would quickly deflect, "Oh, it's nothing special, just an old tune." He was uncomfortable receiving compliments or money, as if he had no right to them. This awkward and rejecting energy created an invisible barrier between him and his audience. One day, a noblewoman stopped to listen. After he finished, she approached. Instead of just dropping a coin, she looked him directly in the eye and said, "Your music brought a moment of peace to my troubled day. Thank you." Liam was about to open his mouth to offer his usual self-deprecating reply, but the woman gently raised a hand. "Young man," she said, "a gift is not complete until it is received. When you deflect a compliment, you disrespect both the giver and the gift. Simply say, 'Thank you.' Allow the gift to land." Her words were a revelation to Liam. He realized his humility was actually robbing others of their joy of giving. The next day, when a merchant praised his song, Liam took a breath, looked the man in the eye, smiled, and said a clear, "Thank you, sir." The energy shifted completely. A genuine connection was made. As Liam learned to receive gracefully, his audience felt more connected. They gave more freely and joyfully. He learned that a simple, sincere thank you is not just a phrase. It is a powerful mantra that opens the doors of abundance by completing the sacred cycle of exchange. A healing practice, practicing the in-breath of abundance. This exercise helps you train your receiving muscle, an essential part of a prosperous and balanced life. Morning intention. As you begin your day, set a simple intention. Today, I will be a graceful receiver, practicing with compliments. The next time someone compliments you on your work, your appearance, anything, resist the urge to deflect, diminish, or explain. Pause. Take a breath. This is the in-breath. Look the person in the eye, smile genuinely, and say a simple, clear thank you. That is all. Feel the energy of the compliment truly enter and be absorbed by you, practicing with help. If someone offers to help you hold a door, carry something, your first reflex might be, "Oh no, I'm fine." Instead, pause. Try saying, "Thank you, that's very kind of you." Allow yourself to receive their gift of kindness. A receiving journal. At the end of the day, take 1 minute to write down 3 things you received that day. They don't have to be material. It could be a compliment, a smile from a stranger, a helpful piece of advice, a beautiful song you heard, or simply the warmth of the sun. This practice trains your mind to recognize the constant flow of abundance that is always heading your way, a flow you might have previously ignored or rejected. Allow yourself to feel worthy of all the good that life wants to give you. Receiving is not a selfish act. It is a generous act that honors the giver and keeps the sacred flow of the universe in circulation. Chapter 18. The universe is the perfect record keeper. Lyra grew up at the foot of a great silent mountain. The villagers considered it a sacred entity, but the mountain had been barren and rocky for generations. Despite this, Lyra always held for the mountain a deep love and reverence. Every day from the time she was a small girl, Lyra would climb the mountainside. She would leave small gifts, a colorful feather, a smooth river stone. Sometimes she would just sit and sing silent songs to the mountain, telling it how beautiful it was in her eyes. She did this not to receive anything in return, but from a place of pure devotion. Years passed. Lyra became a young woman, and the mountain remained barren. The villagers sometimes gently mocked her foolish dedication. Even Lyra herself sometimes wondered if her gifts, her songs, her love simply vanished into the air, never heard, never recorded. Then one day a terrible forest fire swept through the valley, incinerating the woods that were the village's lifeblood. Despair fell over everyone. Heartbroken Lyra sought her only refuge, the mountain. As she sat there weeping for her village, she noticed something she had never seen before. A tiny green sprout, vibrant with life, was pushing its way through a crack in the rock, right where she used to leave her gifts. And then she saw another and another. The entire slope where she had spent years pouring out her love began to bloom with a new kind of herb, a fire-resistant and precious medicinal plant that no one had ever seen before. Her years of sincere devotion had not been lost. The universe had recorded every last bit. They were like seeds planted in the energetic soil, waiting for the most perfect moment to sprout the very moment her village needed a new source of life and hope more than ever. The response had not come on a human timeline, but on a sacred timeline, with a wisdom and perfection she could never have orchestrated herself. The universe is a perfect record keeper. Every sincere word, intention, and energy you send into life is carefully recorded. No offering from the heart is ever lost. It is only waiting for the right time to echo back. When you communicate with the world around you with reverence, you are creating a sacred covenant, and life, by its very nature, cannot help but respond to that reverence. Consider the story of Silas, the old librarian of an ancient library. He was a dedicated man, but he had grown weary. To him, the books were a responsibility, a collection of dusty objects to be managed. The library was slowly falling into disrepair. The roof leaked, the bookbindings were rotting, and fewer people visited. Silas worked hard to preserve it, but with a sigh and a sense of resignation. One day a child walked in, and his eyes lit up with pure wonder. "So many stories," the child whispered. That pure admiration awoke something in Silas. He picked up an old book. This time he didn't see an object to be catalogued. He remembered the magic within it. A wave of gratitude rose in his heart. Gratitude for the author, for the stories, for the preserved knowledge. He began a new practice. Every morning he would walk through the library, not as a manager, but as a grateful guest. He would run his hand along the shelves and silently say, "Thank you." He thanked the light filtering through the high windows. He stopped demanding that the library survive and started loving it for what it was. His energy changed. The library no longer felt like a dusty tomb. It became alive with magic. People began to find their way there, drawn by an invisible pull. A wealthy scholar, moved by the soul of the place, decided to fund a complete restoration of the library. Silas learned that instead of demanding growth, one should learn to speak the language of gratitude. The simple act of acknowledging and appreciating what is activates an abundant response from the universe. The foundation of all this is trust. Trust that you are always heard, always witnessed, and that what you sincerely give is carefully kept. This trust is in itself a magnetic power, a healing practice sending signals of trust. This final exercise is an invitation to live in a state of unwavering faith, knowing you are part of a sacred and loving dialogue. An act of reverence. Sometime today, choose one aspect of nature to interact with. It could be a houseplant, a tree on the street, or the blue sky above. Spend 1 minute with it, ask for nothing. Simply observe it with reverence and silently thank it for its existence and its beauty. This is an act of honoring your sacred covenant with life. Creating a gratitude chronicle. At the end of the day, instead of thinking about what you didn't accomplish, write down 3 things you are truly grateful for that happened during the day. This practice tunes your frequency from lack to abundance, helping you speak the language that makes life flourish. The practice of entrusting to the archive. Think of a kind act you did, a kind word you spoke, or a loving thought you sent that you feel went unnoticed. Close your eyes. Imagine placing that memory into a beautiful glowing chest. As you close the lid, say to yourself, I trust that this has been recorded by the universe and will echo back at the perfect time. This practice builds the muscle of faith, teaching you to believe that no good energy is ever wasted. Your journey is witnessed. The whispers of your heart are heard. Every one of your loving actions is etched into the chronicles of the universe. Rest in this truth, trust in the sacred orchestration, and live as one who knows they are an immeasurably precious part of a universe that is always listening, always responding, and always loving. Chapter 19. The Law of Inversion. Kyle was a young man with a burning desire to capture the legendary silver falcon, a bird whose every feather was said to hold wisdom. He began the hunt. He climbed mountains and crossed valleys. He set the most sophisticated traps. He used nets. He tried to corner it. His entire being radiated an energy of desperation, of needing to possess the falcon. But the more he chased, the more agile and elusive the falcon became. It seemed to mock his efforts, always staying just out of reach. The energy of desperation, of control, created an invisible pushing force that made the bird evade him. Exhausted and empty-handed, Kyle collapsed on a mountaintop, admitting defeat. He let go. He stopped trying to catch it. He lay back on the grass, simply watching the falcon as it soared freely and beautifully in the sky. For the first time, he saw it not as a prize to be won, but for its pure beauty. In his heart, he silently scented a wish for its peace. He had shifted from the energy of needing to the energy of welcoming, and a miracle happened. The silver falcon, no longer sensing the energy of the chase, changed its flight path. It gently glided down and landed on a rock outcropping just a few steps from Kyle. It looked at him with its wise eyes, preened its shimmering coat, and then dropped a single perfect silver feather before taking flight once more. The treasure was revealed not when he was madly pursuing it, but at the very moment he completely let go. This is a fundamental law of attraction, a law of inversion. What you try to grasp tightly will slip through your fingers. What you trust and release will find its way back to you. The universe does not respond to the energy of desperation or lack. Anxious pursuit creates a pushing force. A healthy relationship with abundance is one of peaceful allowing, not a frantic hunt. Consider the story of Alaric and Alara. Their family needed a new home. They had a very specific and rigid vision. It had to be a stone house by the river, and they had to have it before winter. They began an anxious search. They looked at every stone house by the river, but none were right. They became desperate. Their energy was one of need. We need this house now. Their attachment to the how, the stone house by the river, and the when before winter was preventing a grander plan from unfolding. As winter approached, they felt completely hopeless. One evening, sitting together, they decided to surrender. Perhaps the universe has a better idea for us, Alara said. They let go of the image of the stone house. They let go of the deadline. They changed their inner dialogue from "we need" to a more open and trusting state. We welcome the perfect home for our family, wherever it is and whenever it comes. They had transformed their energy from needing to welcoming. The following week, an old friend sent word. A carpenter in his village had just finished a beautiful wooden house on a sunny hillside, not made of stone and not next to the river. The carpenter had to move away unexpectedly and wanted to pass the house on. Alaric and Alara went to see it. The house was filled with light cozy, and the hillside garden was more beautiful than they had imagined. It was more perfect for their family than any stone house could have been. It appeared at the right time because they had dared to let go of their own plan to make space for the universe's more wonderful solution to appear. A healing practice, shifting from needing to welcoming. This exercise helps you consciously shift your vibrational frequency from lack to abundance, from resistance to allowing. Identify the needing energy. Think of a desire that you feel particularly urgent or stuck about. Notice the sensation in your body. It might be a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach. That is the physical sensation of need. Acknowledge it. This is the energy of need, the letting go breath. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale consciously, imagine that you are breathing out all attachment to the how and the when. Breathe out the need to control. Do this 3 times. Draft a welcoming declaration. Now create a new welcoming statement. Instead of, I need a new job, try, I am opening my heart and welcoming the perfect career opportunity where my talents are honored and expressed. Instead of, I need more money, try, I welcome the flow of abundance and prosperity into my life from all directions. Feel the shift. Read your new welcoming declaration aloud. Notice how the sensation in your body changes. The energy of welcoming is open, calm, and trusting. It does not contract. It expands. Abide in this feeling for a few moments. The covenant of release. As a final step, say to the universe, I trust in the highest good, and I release all control over how and when it arrives. I trust in your orchestration. The path to what you desire is not a battlefield where you must fight to win. It is a dance of trust. Lay down the weapons of control and effort. When you have the courage to let go, you will find that the universe will place in your hands gifts more wonderful than you ever dared to dream. Chapter 20. The Rhythm of Abundance. Elian's honey was considered the finest in the entire region. It was not just sweet. People believed it had the power to heal. Many traveled great distances to buy his honey. Another beekeeper, envious of Elian's success, tried to copy everything. He bought identical hives and planted similar flowers. He even performed complex rituals he had read about in books, burning special incense and chanting prayers for a bountiful harvest. But his honey remained merely ordinary. He was focused on the external actions, but he lacked the core ingredient. Frustrated, he decided to spy on Elian to discover his secret. He expected to see some grand magical ceremony, but what he saw was disappointingly simple. Every morning without fail, before beginning his work, Elian would simply stand still before his beehives. He spoke not a word. He just entered a silent state of deep gratitude. He silently sent a feeling of love and appreciation to the bees, thanking them for their diligence. It was not a performance. It was a silent, consistent ritual of connection. The rival suddenly understood. The secret was not in what Elian did, but in the state he became. His simple, regular ritual had created a powerful and harmonious energy field that enveloped the hives, and the bees responded to that stable and loving frequency. Elian's prosperity did not come from a lucky event. It came from the rhythm of his devotion. Consistency had turned his simple practice into a powerful magnet. Abundance is not a random event. It is the result of a sustained rhythm of the silent rituals you practice regularly when no one is watching. When you create a sacred space, a still energy field within the outer physical world has no choice but to rearrange itself to reflect that inner space. Consider the story of Anya. She lived in a small, cluttered, and dreary room in a noisy city. She yearned for peace and beauty, but her external reality was the complete opposite. She tried to fix it from the outside. She bought cheap decorations and rearranged the furniture, but the room still felt cramped and chaotic. Then she decided to try a different way. She could not change the room physically, so she would change it energetically. She created a simple ritual. Every morning she would sit in a corner of the room for 5 minutes. She would light a candle. During that time, she did not wish for a bigger room. Instead, she closed her eyes and cultivated the feeling of spaciousness, beauty, and peace within herself. She imagined her heart was a vast and silent cathedral. As she persisted with this daily ritual, A magical shift began to occur. The room did not change, but her experience of it did. It began to feel larger, quieter. The noise from outside seemed to recede. And then the outer world began to reflect the inner space she had so diligently cultivated. A noisy neighbor suddenly moved away. A friend gifted her a flowering plant. Little by little, her physical space began to harmonize with the sacred space she had created within. A ritual is not an act of begging or bargaining with the universe. It is a pure acknowledgement, a silent affirmation of your birthright to abundance. The purpose of a ritual is not to do something, but to become something, a magnetic alignment that tunes your entire being to naturally resonate with the frequency of wealth. A healing practice. Establishing your own magnetic ritual. Great transformation does not require grand actions, but small acts performed with a great heart and unwavering consistency. Choose your anchor. Select a simple object to be the focus of your ritual. It could be a candle, a favorite stone, a cup of tea, or even your own breath. This object has no magic. It is an anchor point for your attention. Define your being intention. Choose a state of being you wish to align with during your ritual. Not something you want to get, but something you want to become. For example, peace, gratitude, clarity, abundance. Establish a time and space. Choose a consistent time and space where you can practice without being disturbed, even if only for 3 to 5 minutes each day. Consistency in time and space helps build energetic momentum. Perform the ritual. Sit down with your anchor. Take a few deep breaths to release the worries of the day. Gently bring the state of being you have chosen, e.g., abundance, into your awareness. For the next few minutes, simply be with that feeling. No pleading, no problem solving. Your only task is to immerse yourself in the chosen frequency. This is not an act of asking, it is an act of acknowledging the abundance that is already part of you. The covenant of consistency. As you finish, silently promise yourself that you will return to this practice tomorrow. It is this unwavering devotion that will build a powerful magnetic field around you. Your life can become a beautiful ritual. Every day, through small and consistent actions, you are not just creating prosperity, you are becoming prosperity itself. And when you become it, all that resonates with that frequency will naturally find its way to you. Chapter 21. The Reality-Creating Declaration. A strange woman named Mara arrived in a village that was steeped in a gray plague. It was not a disease, but a pervasive sense of hopelessness and lack. Their food was bland, the landscape was dreary, and the people were weary. Their collective belief was this land is cursed. Mara announced that she would cook a sunstone feast, with nothing but a very ordinary-looking yellow stone. She placed the stone in a large pot of water and started a fire. The villagers scoffed. They saw a stone and plain water. Their reality told them this was nonsense. They believed she was a fraud. They were reacting to what was. But Mara did not operate from their reality. She operated from an unshakable belief. She didn't hope the stone had magic. She knew it did. Her belief was so powerful and pure that it created an energy field. She held the conviction that the stone contained the essence of the sun's warmth and flavor. She stirred the pot, radiating that certainty. A child drawn by her powerful presence came closer. "I am making sunstone soup," she said with a smile. "It is almost ready, but it would be even better with a carrot." The child, caught in her field of belief, ran home and brought back a carrot. Another villager, seeing this, thought to himself, "Well, a potato couldn't hurt," and added one to the pot. And so it went one by one, drawn in by Mara's conviction. Each person contributed something. Soon the pot was full of the richest, most fragrant stew they had ever tasted. The stone itself did nothing, but Mara's belief, the label she had placed on reality, had acted as the catalyst. It had shifted the entire village's collective belief from "we have nothing" to "we are creating a feast." The universe did not respond to the reality of the stone and water. It responded to the reality of Mara's belief. She had proven that belief is the architect, not the observer. The universe does not respond to what is. It responds to what you believe is. The power of belief is not a matter of chance. It is a fundamental law as solid and reliable as the law of gravity. When you can declare a new truth with unshakable faith, the universe has no choice but to obey and reflect that declaration back to you as reality. Liam was known to everyone as Liam the Limper. That name had shaped his entire life. He walked with a limp and had always believed his leg was weak and crippled. The healers had all told him the same thing. The leg was damaged. This is your reality. He accepted that story. He hoped for a miracle, but his core belief was in his own brokenness. He sought out an old woman who lived as a hermit in the forest. She did not look at his leg. She looked directly into his eyes and said, "The leg is not the problem. The story you believe about the leg is the problem. Your body listens to the story your mind tells it. Stop telling it a story of brokenness. Tell it a new one." The idea was radical, but it ignited something in Liam. He went home and began a silent practice. He stopped seeing himself as Liam the Limper. Every morning he stood before a polished shield and declared not with words but with his entire being a new truth. "I am wholeness. I am strength. Every part of my body is perfect and complete." He was no longer wishing. He was declaring a new reality. At first, nothing changed physically, but his energy did. He began to walk with less hesitation, not because his leg was different, but because his belief about it was different. He no longer sent it the energy of being broken. He sent it the energy of being whole. Over weeks and months, a miraculous transformation occurred. The muscles long atrophied began to respond. The limp lessened, then vanished. The universe had not responded to the reality of his leg. It had responded to the new law he had declared with absolute faith. He learned that belief is not a miracle. It is the law. The final evolution is to shift from the mindset of a hoper to the mindset of a declarer, knowing that the declaration must become truth. A healing practice. The practice of the ultimate declaration. This is the practice of stepping into your highest creative power. It is not an affirmation to be repeated, but a law to be activated. Identify the old reality. Choose an area of your life where you feel stuck. Identify the old limiting belief that has created this reality. For example, "I always struggle with money." Draft the new declaration. Now architect your new reality in a single powerful present tense sentence. This is not a wish. It is a declaration of what is true. For example, "I am the embodiment of infinite prosperity," or "Creativity flows through me with ease and abundance." The ritual of declaration. Find a moment when you can be alone and undisturbed. Stand tall with your feet firmly on the ground. Place a hand on your heart. Take a deep breath, activating the law. Speak your new declaration aloud. Say it not with hope, not with pleading, but with a quiet, unshakable authority, like a king issuing a new law for his kingdom. Feel the truth of it in every cell. You are not asking for permission. You are declaring what is. Abide in the new truth. After you have spoken, do not doubt it. Do not look for immediate proof. Simply abide in the feeling of this new reality. Walk through the rest of your day as if that declaration is the supreme law of your universe, because it is. The journey has brought you here to the threshold of ultimate freedom. You are no longer a passive observer of life, nor a beggar for its favor. You are the architect, the declarer, the co-creator. The magic wand you have been seeking is your own belief. Take it and begin to create the world you know you deserve. Chapter 22. The Golden Signature of Authenticity. Finian was a talented woodcarver, But he carried a secret he considered a shameful flaw due to a childhood accident. His left hand had a slight uncontrollable tremor. He spent years trying to hide or correct it. He would bind his wrist tightly, try to carve only with his right hand, and use special tools to smooth away every flawed line caused by the tremor. He yearned for his work to be perfect, smooth, and precise, like the pieces from the masters in the capital city. He was trying to erase his own uniqueness, to conform to someone else's standard of perfection. His works were technically excellent, but they lacked a soul. One day he was given a great honor to carve a door for the grand hall of the town hall. The pressure to create a perfect piece drove him to despair. He felt he couldn't do it. In a moment of surrender and frustration, he threw away his smoothing tools and, using both hands, began to carve a small bird, allowing his natural tremor to guide the chisel. When he looked at the result, he was stunned. The imperfect lines created by the tremor did not make the bird look flawed. On the contrary, they created a unique, vibrant texture that looked exactly like real feathers ruffled in the wind. It was more alive than anything he had ever made. He had discovered his golden signature. He embraced his flaw and used it to carve the entire door. The door became a masterpiece, praised not for its smooth perfection, but for its unique and vibrant texture. Other carvers tried to copy it, but they couldn't because they did not have his unique tremor. He learned that the very thing he had tried to hide was his most precious gift, his source of artistic power, and his magnet for prosperity. The universe responds to authenticity, not perfection. Your greatest magnetic power lies not in trying to be perfect, but in daring to express your true self. The things you consider your flaws or differences are often your most valuable gifts. Consider the story of Alara. She opened a small bakery in a square that already had many other famous bakeries. To compete, she initially tried to be like the others, only slightly better. She saw they made sweet honey cakes, so she tried to make her cakes sweeter. She saw they made dense, dark bread, so she tried to make her bread denser. She was constantly looking outward, chasing trends, trying to win by conforming to pre-existing standards. As a result, her bakery was just one among many unremarkable. Tired and defeated, she decided one day that she had nothing left to lose. If I'm going to fail, she thought, at least let me fail as myself. She stopped making what she thought other people wanted. She started making what she loved. She baked strange, savory breads her grandmother had taught her, using wild herbs and spices that no one else used. She made oddly shaped tarts with sour berries and cheese. Her food became unique, personal, and a direct expression of her heart. A few curious customers tried her new creations. The unique flavors were a revelation. Word spread like wildfire, not about another bakery, but about the woman who makes those amazing herbal breads and those strange but delicious tarts. People flocked to her shop, not because she was like the others, but precisely because she was not. Authenticity became her brand, her magnetic pull. The abundance she had chased in vain while trying to be perfect finally found her when she had the courage to be herself. The universe was not waiting for a more perfect honey cake. It was waiting for Alara's unique and authentic flavor. The wealth you seek is not waiting for you to become someone else. It is waiting for you to have the courage to become fully and completely yourself. A healing practice, discovering your golden signature. Your power lies not in eliminating your differences, but in owning and honoring them. This exercise helps you discover the hidden gift in your own uniqueness. List your differences. Take a piece of paper. Instead of listing your strengths, list the things that make you different. Your quirky personality traits, your flaws, your strange hobbies, your unique perspectives that you may have tried to hide or fix in the past. For example, my laugh is too loud. I'm too sensitive. I love old, obscure stories. I have a scar on my hand. Re-examine through a new lens. Now look at each item on your list. For each flaw or quirk, ask yourself a new question. What gift or strength is hidden inside this difference? Too loud laugh, the gift of spreading joy without reservation. Too sensitive, the gift of deep empathy and understanding. A scar on my hand, a reminder of resilience and the ability to heal, a declaration of authenticity. Choose one of your unique qualities that you will now see as a gift. Create a declaration for it. For example, my sensitivity is not a weakness, it is my golden signature, my source of connection. An act of authenticity. In the next 24 hours, find one small way to consciously express this unique quality instead of hiding it. If it's your laugh, allow yourself to laugh freely. If it's your love for an uncommon hobby, share it with someone. This is the act of activating your true magnetic signature. Your journey is not to become perfect. Your journey is to become more authentic. The universe is not waiting for a flawless copy. It is eagerly awaiting your beautiful, imperfect, and one-of-a-kind original. Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. Chapter 23. The Power of Silent Presence. A bitter dispute erupted between the Weavers' Guild and the Dyers' Guild over the price of thread. Commerce ground to a halt. Both guilds were suffering heavy losses. The young and aggressive leaders from both sides met, the room filled with shouts, threats, and accusations. They pounded the table, trying to win through force and loud arguments. They were trying to prove the other side wrong, but every word spoken only deepened the conflict. In the midst of the chaos, Anya, the elderly master of the Weavers' Guild, was summoned. She entered the room. She spoke not a word. She brought no plans or sharp rebuttals. She simply sat down in the head chair, her presence radiating an unshakable peace and stability. Her silence was not empty. It was filled with the certainty of her position and a deep understanding of the value of her craft. She did not need to shout because she was the authority. Her silent presence changed the entire energy of the room. The shouting lessened, then ceased. The aggressive postures deflated before her quiet power. In the newfound silence she had created, the other leaders began to feel ashamed of their behavior. One by one, they began to state their cases again, this time with respect. Anya offered no solution. She just listened, her presence holding a space of integrity. And in that space, the two sides found their own fair compromise. The agreement they reached was better and more durable than any solution she could have imposed upon them. Her power was not in what she said or did. It lay in who she was. Her presence was the most powerful silent command. True power needs no voice. It comes from a silent, solid presence. When you abide in your inner sovereignty, the universe responds not to your words, but to the very vibrational frequency of that certainty. Energy that knows its own value needs no external validation. Silas was a reclusive painter. He painted magnificent pictures but never exhibited or sold them. He painted for the pure joy of creation. A harsh winter plunged the village into hardship. Silas knew he could sell his paintings in the city to help everyone, but the thought of haggling, of explaining his art, of proving its value to merchants, exhausted him. Instead of becoming a salesman, he did something simple. He took one of his most cherished paintings, a radiant summer sun, and simply placed it in his front window facing the village square. He put up no price tag. He made no announcement that it was for sale. He just let it be present. He had so completely embraced the work's value from within that he no longer felt the need to advertise it externally. The painting's energy radiated. The villagers passing through the cold square were suddenly drawn to the warmth and life emanating from his window. It was not just a painting, it was the feeling of summer. A wealthy art patron passing through the village by chance was stopped in his tracks. He did not see a painting for sale. He saw a masterpiece. He knocked on Silas's door. He did not ask the price. He asked what would be a worthy exchange for a gift such as this. The transaction that followed was an exchange of respect and abundance, far exceeding anything Silas could have gained by haggling. He did not need to speak. His energy infused into the work had broadcast a silent command of its own immense value. and the universe had conspired to send the right person who could recognize and honor it. When you can silently embody your power from a place of knowing certainty, the universe will automatically conspire to validate and demonstrate what you already know to be true. A healing practice abiding in your inner sovereignty. This is the final practice and the highest state of being. It is not an action to do, but a person to become. Identify your throne. Find a place where you can sit comfortably and undisturbed. This place in this moment is your throne. Release all need to prove. Close your eyes. Consciously release any need to be right, to be seen, to be validated, or to prove anything to anyone, including yourself. Release even the need to manifest something. Breathe like a sovereign. Breathe slowly, deeply, and with authority. Imagine you are not just breathing air, but breathing in your own inherent power and value. Every exhale is a peaceful blessing upon your kingdom. Feel the certainty place a hand on your center, your heart or belly. Feel the quiet, solid strength there. This is the feeling of knowing your own worth beyond all doubt. It is not loud. It is not arrogant. It is simply a deep and unshakable I am state. Abide in this feeling. Carry the presence with you. When you open your eyes, try to carry this silent presence with you. Enter the next room, not as someone hoping for an outcome, but as a quiet monarch. Notice how the world seems to respond differently to you when you are no longer seeking anything from it, but are simply being powerfully present. Your journey has reached its destination. You have arrived at the source of power, a place that has always been there, waiting in the stillness. The hard work is done. All that is left is to be. In that being, your energy will speak for itself, and the entire universe will listen. Chapter 24. The Blueprint of the Inner Vision. The architect Alara was invited to a competition to design the Great Bridge for the capital city, a bridge that had to be not only stable but also a symbol of beauty and unity. While the other architects immediately dove into drawing technical blueprints, making models, and calculating specifications, Alara did not touch a single piece of parchment for weeks. Her patrons began to worry, thinking she was being lazy or had run out of ideas. They did not see her working, but Alara was doing the most important work of all in an invisible place. Every evening in the stillness of her room, she did not just think about the bridge. She experienced it. She closed her eyes, and with all her senses she walked across her finished bridge. She felt the cool, smooth stone under her fingertips. She heard the gentle flow of the river below. She saw the way the morning sun illuminated the arches, and most importantly, she felt the deep pride, unity, and joy of the citizens as they crossed it. She was dreaming with emotion, charging the blueprint in her mind with energy. She held that vision not with craving, but with a calm certainty, as if she were recalling a cherished memory. When she finally sat down to draw, the design flowed from her hand onto the paper with ease and perfection. It was not a sketch. It was a direct transcription of a reality that already existed in its entirety within her. When she presented her design, the council was completely captivated. They didn't just see a drawing. They could feel the soul of the bridge she described. The bridge, when built, was identical to her vision, becoming a beloved symbol of the city for generations. Alara had proven that the greatest works must first be built in the inner world. The dreams and images you paint in your mind are not idle fantasies. They are the seeds, the blueprints for the reality that will sprout into your tomorrow. But mere visualization is not enough. The true power is activated when you combine a clear vision with a deep emotional state. Emotion is the catalyst, the energy that charges your vision. Consider the story of Kael, a young weaver who lived a monotonous and dreary life. Every day he worked at a noisy loom, weaving endless bolts of gray cloth. He dreamed of a different life, one of adventure and color, but it seemed impossibly far away. During the day, the reality of the noisy workshop and his tired body was too strong. Any attempt to feel hopeful was quickly extinguished. But then he heard an ancient teaching: sow your seeds on the soil of night. He decided to try. Every night, just before falling asleep in that relaxed, drowsy state, he would stop thinking about his gray life. Instead, he would gently create a memory of the future. He saw himself standing on the deck of a ship, feeling the cool sea spray on his face. He heard the vibrant sounds of a foreign marketplace. He felt the thrill of discovery. He did not force it. He simply drifted into that new reality as he fell asleep, planting his seed in the most fertile soil of the subconscious. He persisted in this nightly practice, and the seed sown in the soil of night began to sprout in the light of day of his reality. One day, a foreign merchant who needed a skilled weaver to repair the sails for his long expedition noticed the precision in Kael's weaving. He offered the young man a position on his ship. The opportunity seemed to come from nowhere, but it was a direct harvest from the seeds he had faithfully planted. He left his gray life behind to step into the very adventure he had architected in the final moments before sleep. A healing practice: sowing seeds on the soil of night. The relaxed, drowsy state before sleep is the most powerful gateway to the subconscious mind and the energetic field of the universe. Use it consciously. Draft your future memory. Before you go to bed, decide on a simple, beautiful scene that represents your desire fulfilled. This is your future memory. Keep it short and emotionally rich. Not a long movie, just a perfect moment. Example: the feeling of holding your new book in your hands, the sound of laughter in your new home, the taste of a meal celebrating a success. Prepare the soil as you lie in bed. Let go of the worries of the day. Breathe deeply and relax. Allow your body and mind to drift into that warm, drowsy state just before sleep. This is the most fertile soil. Sow the seed with emotion. Now gently bring your future memory to mind. Don't analyze it. Step into it. What do you see? See the colors, the light. What do you hear? Hear the sounds. What do you feel? Feel the temperature on your skin, and most importantly, feel the deep emotion of joy, peace, or gratitude. Hold it with certainty. Hold this emotionally rich image with the calm certainty of a beloved memory. It is not something you want. It is something that has happened in the eternal realm of spirit. Drift into sleep. Allow yourself to fall asleep while immersed in this emotional state. You are handing your blueprint over to the master craftsman, your subconscious mind, and the universe, to begin their construction work while you rest. Your imagination is not a childish fantasy. It is a sacred and powerful creative faculty. Become a master dreamer, an architect of beautiful inner worlds, and know that with unshakable faith, what you build on the inside, you will one day walk through on the outside. Chapter 25. The Universe's Ledger. Old Ilara lived alone in a small house on the edge of the village. She did not have many possessions except for a small apple tree that year after year produced the sweetest and healthiest apples. One year, a blight devastated all the orchards in the valley. Every tree withered except for Ilara's apple tree, which by some miracle remained heavy with fruit. The villagers faced a harsh and lean winter. Ilara could have sold her perfect apples for a very high price and lived a comfortable life, but her heart told her to do something else. For several nights, under the cover of darkness, she did something in secret. She did not sell a single apple. Instead, she quietly placed small baskets of apples on the doorstep of every family in the village. She did this not for thanks or for recognition. She simply gave from the heart, sharing the little she had. By the end of the week, her own basket was empty. She had sown all of her seeds and completely released them. A few days later, a royal carriage, having broken a wheel, was forced to stop in the village. The young prince was suffering from a strange fever, and the royal physician said the only cure was a rare disease-resistant apple. Hearing this, all the villagers brought forth the apples that Alara had secretly given them. The prince was cured. The king and queen, overjoyed, asked about the source of this miraculous fruit. When they learned the story of a poor old woman who had given away everything she had, they were deeply moved by her selflessness. They not only rewarded her with gold and silver, but also granted her a lifelong royal pension and declared her orchard a treasure of the kingdom. Her small and silent gift had been recorded by the universe. It did not just return, it was multiplied 1,000-fold, in ways she could never have imagined. The universe keeps a perfect ledger. Every action, no matter how small, born of a pure and non-expectant intention, is carefully recorded. The most powerful actions are often those done in silence, without needing anyone's recognition. When you sow seeds of sincere love and kindness, they will be multiplied and will return to you as a bountiful harvest. Consider the story of Silas, a ferryman on a quiet river. His job was simple, just taking people back and forth between the two banks. Sometimes he felt his work was small and meaningless when he saw the merchants, the warriors, the nobles going off to do important things. One rainy afternoon, he took on a young traveling musician as a passenger. She was shivering from the cold and had no money to pay for the trip. Instead of refusing her, Silas felt a pure compassion. He not only ferried her across for free, but also shared his piece of bread and his own dry cloak. It was a small, uncalculated act of kindness. He sowed the seed and immediately released it, forgetting all about it as he rowed back. But the universe did not forget. The musician warmed and fed, arrived in the next town with a revived spirit. That night she played a new song, a hopeful tune inspired by the ferryman's kindness. The music was so beautiful it moved a despondent merchant to tears. His heart opened, and the next day that merchant decided to forgive the debt of a poor farmer instead of seizing his land. The farmer, freed from some of his burden, was able to hire 2 more workers, giving them employment. One of those workers now had money to buy medicine for his sick child. The ripples spread on, touching countless shores Silas would never see. He would never know the full impact of his action, but the universe's ledger had recorded it all. One small act from the heart had created a wave of abundance and healing. A healing practice, sowing seeds in silence. This exercise helps you experience the joy and power of unconditional giving, trusting in the universe's multiplication. Set an intention to serve. In the morning, set a simple intention. Today, I will look for an opportunity to silently sow a seed of kindness. Perform a silent act. During the day, find a small anonymous act of service you can perform. It doesn't have to involve money. Pick up a piece of litter in the park to make it more beautiful for the next person. Leave an anonymous encouraging note for a colleague who seems stressed. When you see someone on the street who looks sad, silently send them a blessing of peace and love from your heart. Sow and release. The moment you complete the act, perform the most important step consciously, release it. Do not tell anyone. Do not wait for a thank you. Do not check for results. Simply smile to yourself and entrust it to the care of the universe, trusting that it has been recorded. Feel the inner joy. Notice the quiet joy that arises not from being recognized, but from the act of giving itself. This feeling is your immediate reward and the sign that you are in harmony with the benevolent flow of life. Become a silent gardener for the world. Your true wealth is not measured by what you accumulate, but by the positive ripples you send out into the universe, with the firm faith that life's perfect accountant will ensure that your own cup is always full. Chapter 26. The Silent Observer. The young King Liam had just ascended to the throne after the sudden death of his father. He was overwhelmed by the burden of responsibility. His mind was a tempest of fear and self-doubt. I am not ready. I will ruin this kingdom. My people will never respect me. He tried to fight these thoughts. He used his willpower to suppress the fear, commanding himself to be strong, to be courageous. But the more he resisted, the stronger and more persistent the thoughts became. His inner storm began to affect his rule. He became indecisive, irritable, and made poor decisions based on fear. In his desperation, he sought out an old hermit who had been his father's advisor. The hermit did not offer him strategies for ruling. He gave him a single instruction: "Your Majesty, do not fight the storm. Climb the tower within yourself and simply observe it." He guided the young king. "You are not your thoughts," he said, "nor are you your fears. You are the one who is aware of those thoughts and fears. You are the sky. They are just clouds passing through." Liam began to practice. Every time a fearful thought arose, he no longer wrestled with it. He would take a step back in his mind and simply acknowledge it. A thought of fear is there. Then he would let it drift by like watching a cloud move across the sky. He was cultivating his inner observer, and a miracle occurred. No longer being fed by his resistance, the storm in his mind began to subside. The fearful thoughts lost their power and dissolved on their own. In the space created by that non-judgmental observation, a deep peace and clarity began to emerge. He began to rule with a wisdom he never knew he possessed. He had learned that true power lies not in the will to fight, but in the ability to witness one's inner world from a place of compassionate detachment. Before even your words and actions, it is your thoughts that create energetic ripples, but you are not those thoughts. Within you there is an observer, a pure, non-judgmental awareness. Connecting with this observer is the key to mastering your life. Non-judgmental observation creates the space for all negativity to transform itself. Consider the story of Anya, a restorer of ancient paintings. She was given a masterpiece that was heavily damaged. A dark stain, seemingly created from the anger and sorrow of a former owner, had seeped deep into the canvas, dulling the painting's colors. Other restorers might have used harsh chemicals and abrasive tools to scrub the stain away. They would have used force to impose a new reality upon the painting, but Anya knew that doing so would destroy the delicate layers of paint underneath. Her method was completely different. She used no chemicals. She did no scrubbing. She simply placed the painting in her quietest room. Every day for hours, she just sat before it. She did not try to fix it. She was simply present with it. She observed it with a gentle, accepting, and non-judgmental attention. She saw the stain not as an enemy to be defeated, but as a wound that needed to be witnessed with love. Over many weeks, something extraordinary happened. The heavy energy of the stain began to dissipate. The bright colors beneath, long obscured, began to glow again, as if they had just taken a deep breath. The painting seemed to be healing itself, simply by being held in the grace of her silent, loving observation. She learned that observant presence itself is the grace of transformation. You do not always have to do something. Sometimes the most powerful action is simply to hold an aware presence for yourself, allowing the layers of negative reaction to naturally fall away, revealing the brilliant nature that has always been there. A healing practice, meeting the observer. This exercise is an invitation to meet the core of your being, the part of you that is peaceful and unchanging. Find a quiet seat. Find a comfortable posture where you can remain still for a few minutes. Close your eyes. Observe the breath. For the first minute, simply bring your attention to your breath. Do not try to change it. Just feel the air flowing in and flowing out. This action anchors you in the present moment. Observe thoughts as clouds. Now imagine you are sitting under a vast, clear blue sky. Your thoughts are the clouds that drift across that sky. When a thought appears, e.g., I need to go to the market, or I'm not doing this exercise well, just silently label it in your mind, thinking. Do not analyze it, do not chase it, do not resist it. Simply acknowledge its presence and let it drift by. Then return your attention to the vast blue sky of your awareness. Identify the observer. As you are doing this, ask yourself a silent question. Who is the one who is aware of these thoughts? The entity that is aware, the one watching the clouds pass by, that is the observer. It is calm, silent, and unchanging, no matter what the clouds are. Feel this silent, clear presence. This is your true nature. Abide in presence. Spend a few more minutes just resting in this state of pure observational awareness. You don't have to do anything. The simple act of connecting with the observer is the complete practice. This very presence is the grace that allows everything else to heal and transform. You are not the storm of your emotions and thoughts. You are the vast stillness in which the storm is allowed to rise and pass away. Realizing this is the key to unshakable inner peace and the true foundation of conscious creation. Chapter 27. Letting go opens the door to receiving Anya. A potter had created what she believed to be her life's masterpiece, a large, exquisitely decorated porcelain vase. She placed all her hopes for recognition and success on this single work. She planned to present it to the queen at the annual arts festival. She guarded the vase obsessively. She wrapped it in multiple layers of cloth and moved it with extreme caution. Her energy was one of fearful clinging. The day before the festival, as she was carrying the vase to the palace, she stumbled. The vase shattered into 1,000 pieces on the stone steps. Her masterpiece was gone. She was completely devastated, believing her entire future had shattered along with it. Ironically, her own tight grip had contributed to its destruction. Sitting amidst the shards in the depths of her sorrow, she had no choice but to let go. The thing she had clung to was gone. Her hopes, her plans, her attachments, all were broken. A strange but freeing emptiness enveloped her. She had nothing left to lose. Returning to her pottery studio with no grand plan left in her mind, she simply sat down and began to work with the clay. Her hands moved with a new grace, a grace born from complete surrender. She created a series of small, simple, but exquisitely beautiful bowls, each one infused with the quiet peace she had just found. She brought these bowls to the festival. The queen, while walking past rows of grandiose and overwrought works, stopped before the quiet, profound beauty of Anya's simple bowls. She saw not just skill, she saw wisdom. The queen bought the entire collection for her private chambers. Anya realized that by shattering her perfect plan, the universe had cleared the way for a greater and more authentic success. The loss of the vase was the necessary act of letting go that enabled her to receive something far better. Letting go precedes receiving. This is an eternal law. You must release your grip on what is lost, or what you are trying to control, before the universe can place something greater in your hands. Letting go does not mean giving up or failing. It is an act of active trust in the wisdom of the universe. Consider the story of Elian, a young scholar. He coveted the position of royal lecturer in the capital. That single position was his entire ambition. He did everything right, but in the end, the position was given to a duke's nephew. Elian was crushed. His attachment to a single form of success had led to bitter disappointment. In his sorrow, he went to his old teacher. The teacher said, "You asked for a branch while the universe wanted to give you a whole forest. Next time, state your desire, then add these words, this or something better." Elian took the teaching to heart. He still desired to share his knowledge, but he released his attachment to that specific position. His new silent intention became, "I welcome the perfect opportunity to share my knowledge, whether it is the position of royal lecturer or something even better." A week later, a messenger arrived. A wealthy and reclusive patron wanted to build a new kind of library and school, a place that would not just teach knowledge, but cultivate wisdom. He had heard of Elian's unique ideas and wanted to invite him not just to teach, but to design and lead the entire school. The opportunity was 1,000 times grander, freer, and more aligned with his passion than the position of royal lecturer ever could have been. By letting go of his specific plan and opening the door to something better, he had allowed the universe to deliver a gift beyond his imagination. The ideal energetic state for manifestation is to be able to desire something without being attached to it, to be able to long for it without demanding it happen your way. A healing practice, the ritual of this or something better. This is a powerful releasing tool that helps you hold your vision while still surrendering the orchestration to the universe. Identify the attachment. Identify a desire or an outcome in your life that you feel you are clinging to too tightly. Recognize the feeling of tension or anxiety that comes with it. Write down the desire. On a piece of paper, write down your desire clearly. For example, I desire to get job A at company B. Perform the release. Now take a deep breath. Underneath your original statement, write this powerful releasing mantra: this or something even better is now manifesting for my highest good and the highest good of all. Feel the freedom. Read the entire statement aloud. Feel the shift in your energy as you add the second phrase. Feel the tension release. You are not abandoning your desire, you are loosening your grip on it. You are saying to the universe, I trust your wisdom more than my own limited plan. Surrender it completely. Fold the piece of paper and place it somewhere you won't see it often, in a book, in a drawer. This is a physical act of entrusting the outcome to a higher wisdom. Every time you start to worry about it, gently remind yourself, I have released it for this or something better. Your job is not to be the universe's manager. Your job is to hold a beautiful vision in your heart and then open your hands in trust. Let go, and you will find that what truly belongs to you will find you often in forms more wonderful than you had ever planned. Chapter 28. The World is a Mirror. Kael was a young cartographer tasked with mapping the forest of shifting mists. All who had come before him had failed because the forest seemed to constantly change, making every map obsolete the moment it was drawn. When Kael entered the forest, he quickly understood why. The forest seemed to be responding to him. When he felt fear, the trees twisted into ghastly shapes and the paths became tangled. When he felt anger and frustration, the forest grew hostile with sharp thorns and blocking boulders. He was trying to map a world that was a reflection of the storm within him, an impossible task. In his desperation, he found a hermit's cave. The old woman did not give him a map. She gave him a crystal lantern. The forest does not change, she said. The light you shine upon it changes. This lantern does not create its own light. It only amplifies the light from within your heart. If you shine fear, you will see a forest of monsters. If you shine peace, you will see a sacred grove. Kael suddenly understood. His consciousness was the flame inside the lantern. He began a new practice. Every morning before starting his work, he would sit in stillness, cultivating a feeling of peace and curiosity. Holding that inner state, he would light his lantern, and the forest transformed. The paths became clear and inviting. The ghastly shapes were revealed to be beautiful ancient trees. The mist parted to reveal hidden waterfalls and glowing glades. He was able to map the forest not by recording its terrain, but by recording its relationship to his own inner states. He had learned a great lesson: the world doesn't happen to you. It happens from you. Your external circumstances are not random. They are a sacred mirror, constantly and faithfully reflecting back your exact inner state. Your consciousness does not just observe reality. It acts as a projector, constantly beaming what it believes onto the screen of life. The immutable law is, as within, so without. Your task is not to change the outer world, but to change your inner lens. When you do, the outer world will automatically adjust. Consider the story of Marcus, a stonemason. He was a highly skilled man, but perpetually grumpy. Every morning upon waking, his inner monologue was the same. The stone will be hard today. The apprentice will be lazy again. The customer will make unreasonable demands. He was projecting that movie before the day had even begun. and the universe, as a faithful mirror, brought him exactly that. The stone seemed harder, the apprentice seemed to make more mistakes. The conversations with customers were always tense. He would return home each evening tired and frustrated, his negative beliefs having been perfectly validated by reality. One morning his wife, a gentle woman, asked him a question. "My love, what color is the lens you have chosen to see the world through today?" The question stopped him. He had never thought of his perspective as a choice. He had always assumed it was a reaction to a difficult world. He decided to try an experiment. For just one day, he would consciously choose to wear a lens of ease and cooperation. The change was miraculous because he approached the stone with an energy of cooperation. The work felt easier. Because he saw the apprentice through a lens of trust, the boy became more enthusiastic and careful. When a customer came with a complaint, instead of being defensive, he listened with an expectation of finding a solution, and the conversation became constructive. The world hadn't changed. His lens had changed, and the world he experienced had no choice but to change with it. The universe responds to the energy you actually radiate, not to the words you say you want. A healing practice, reading the mirror of life. The path to mastering this law is through conscious self-reflection. This exercise helps you recognize the link between your inner and outer worlds, thereby allowing you to make powerful adjustments. Choose an event from your day. At the end of the day, choose one event or interaction that stood out to you, whether positive or negative. For example, an argument with a colleague or receiving an unexpected compliment. Trace it back to the inner projector. Now become a gentle detective. Ask yourself, what was my inner state just before this event happened? What movie was my projector playing? Were you feeling stressed and rushed before the argument? Were you feeling open and joyful before receiving the compliment? Recognize the connection without judgment. Simply notice the correlation. The goal is not to blame yourself. "It's my fault we had an argument." The goal is pure recognition. "Ah, I see. My inner state of frustration was reflected in this experience." The very act of seeing this link is where the real power lies. Choose the movie for tomorrow. Based on your reflection, consciously choose the movie you want to project tomorrow. Set a simple intention for your inner state. For example, tomorrow I choose the movie of patience and peace. Repeat with compassion. Make this end-of-day reflection a gentle and consistent practice. The more you recognize how the mirror works, the more naturally you will adjust your inner state, gradually becoming a conscious architect of your own reality. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the powerful projectionist of your own experience. The world is not a chaotic and random place. It is a faithful and loving mirror, always showing you the beauty and power of your inner world and inviting you to make it as magnificent as you can imagine. Chapter 29. Crossing the Threshold of Fear. Elian was the keeper of a lighthouse on a remote island. His life was safe, predictable, and comfortable. The lighthouse was his fortress, sheltering him from the wildness and unpredictability of the sea. He had food, he had shelter, he had safety. But in his heart he longed to set sail to see what lay beyond the horizon. His core fear was the sea itself. He had a deep terror of its power and its vastness. This fear was the gatekeeper imprisoning him in his limited reality. He could see the ships, the symbols of his desire, traveling to distant lands, but he remained a prisoner in his stone tower, safe but unfulfilled. He was in his comfort zone, but he was not expanding. One day a great storm shipwrecked a sailor on his island. The sailor was not afraid. He spoke of the sea with respect and love. "The sea does not test you to destroy you," he told Elian. "It tests you to see if you are worthy of the wonders it holds." That perspective shifted something within Elian. He realized his fear was not a wall, but a threshold. He understood that everything he truly desired, adventure, freedom, true vitality, was on the other side of that threshold. After the sailor was rescued, Alien made a conscious decision to expand. He did not recklessly abandon his post. He started small. For the first time, he took his small rowboat and paddled out of the lighthouse's calm cove and into open water. His heart pounded, but he did it. That symbolic act of moving through his fear completely changed his energy. The sea was no longer an enemy. Gradually, he became a skilled seaman. Eventually, he left the lighthouse not as someone running away, but as someone bravely answering a call. He had discovered that the fullness of life was not in the safety of the tower, but in the courage to embrace the vastness of the ocean. Attraction requires expansion, not safety. The treasure you seek is not in your comfort zone. It is waiting just on the other side of your core fear. That fear acts as a gatekeeper, a final test to see if you are truly ready to receive what you desire. Your level of abundance will expand in direct proportion to your willingness to face and cross those boundaries. Consider the story of Anya, a talented poet. She wrote beautiful poems, but only in her private journal. She longed to share her work, to connect with kindred spirits, but her gatekeeper was a paralyzing fear of judgment and ridicule. That fear kept her small and silent. Her village announced a festival that included a night of poetry. Anya felt the pull of desire, immediately followed by the paralysis of fear. This time she decided to observe her fear. She saw it not as an absolute truth, "I can't do it," but as a gatekeeper standing at a threshold. She realized the gatekeeper was testing her. How much do you want this? Are you ready to become one who shares her gift? She made a conscious decision. She would not try to conquer the fear, but she would not obey it either. Her act of expansion was tiny. She did not sign up to perform. She just decided that she would attend, and if it felt right, she would stand and read one short poem. On the night of the festival, her hands trembled, but she went. After a few others had shared, she stood up. Her voice quavered as she read her poem. When she finished, there was a moment of silence, then a burst of sincere applause. They did not judge her. They were moved by her authenticity and her courage. That single act of stepping past the gatekeeper broke the fear's power. From that day on, she began to share her work more freely, becoming a beloved poet and teacher. Her abundance expanded in direct proportion to her courage. A healing practice, the ritual of crossing the threshold. This exercise is not about eliminating fear, but about walking with it and proving that you are bigger than it is. Identify your comfort zone. Think about one of your desires. Now, honestly, identify the comfort zone you are living in related to that desire. What patterns, what familiar excuses are keeping you safe, but also keeping you stuck? Identify the gatekeeper. Now identify the core fear that is guarding the boundary of this comfort zone. Name it specifically. Is it the fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of success? Dialogue with the gatekeeper. Sit quietly with this fear. Acknowledge its presence with compassion. Silently say to it, "I see you. I understand you are trying to protect me. Thank you, but now I am ready to expand." You are not fighting the fear. You are respectfully informing it of your decision. Design the smallest possible act of expansion. You don't have to slay the dragon immediately. Identify the smallest possible step you can take to cross the threshold of fear. If you fear public speaking, that step might be just raising your hand to ask a question in a small group. If you fear failure, that step might be starting a tiny project without needing it to be perfect. Take the symbolic step. Within the next 48 hours, take this conscious act of expansion. As you do it, feel the shift in your energy. You are not just performing an action, you are sending a new and powerful declaration to the universe. I am ready. I am expanding. This very symbolic act will recalibrate your energy field. Fear is not a stop sign. It is a milestone indicating that your treasure is near. The universe does not demand fearlessness, it demands courage, the willingness to take one small step even while afraid. See your fears not as prisons, but as invitations to become the larger, more abundant version of yourself you were born to be. Chapter 30. The Final Shift to Abide. Years after bringing peace to the kingdoms, Master Elian, now very old, was invited back to the capital. A new conflict was simmering. Factions were arguing, merchants were hoarding goods, and an energy of fear pervaded the city. The young council, in a panic, was trying to do everything. They issued decrees, sent patrols, and held emergency meetings, but their every action only deepened the chaos. They begged Master Elian to come and fix the situation. They expected him to give speeches, to mediate, to use his wisdom to do something. Elian accepted. He came to the capital, but he did not go to the council chambers. He did not speak to the faction leaders. He issued no commands. He simply found a quiet garden in the center of the city and sat down beneath an ancient olive tree. And he was just there. He just was. His presence was a silent and immense power. His state of being, a deep, unshakable peace, a knowing that all was well, began to radiate through the city like a healing frequency. The frantic energy of the council members began to subside without them understanding why. The faction leaders found their anger inexplicably cooling. A sense of order and clarity began to return, not because of any action, but because of the powerful resonance of his silent being. He did not make peace. He was peace. Naturally, the factions decided to meet not in anger, but with a desire to find a solution. They found their own fair compromise. The city returned to harmony. When the council came to thank Elian, they found him still sitting there. He smiled and said, "I did nothing. I was simply here remembering the truth that peace is always the natural state." He had demonstrated true mastery. Reality will automatically and harmoniously rearrange itself around the silent presence of a unified being without any effort. The ultimate secret lies not in doing anything more, but in being. The universe responds not to your actions, but to who you have become. This journey was not to become, but to remember. Anya had spent her entire life on a spiritual quest. She had traveled the world, learned from masters, meditated in ancient temples, and mastered every law of manifestation. She sought enlightenment, the final secret. After many years, she returned to the simple village where she was born with a simmering sense of failure. Despite all her knowledge, she still felt she was seeking, that she had not yet arrived. One morning, she sat by a stream and observed a child at play. The child was completely absorbed in the moment, laughing, splashing in a state of pure and total joy. The child was not trying to be joyful or practicing presence. The child simply was joy. In that moment, Anya's entire lifelong search collapsed. A great truth dawned. The long, arduous journey was not to become something she wasn't. It was just a long and winding path to lead her back to the simple truth she had possessed as a child. She didn't need to seek power. She was power. She didn't need to seek peace. She was peace. She stopped all her practices. She stopped trying to be spiritual. She simply started living. She took walks. She baked bread. She talked with her neighbors. But now she did these things from a new place, not of seeking, but of knowing. She had remembered who she truly was, a silent creative force already complete and whole from the very beginning. The crown of mastery is the deep realization that everything is already complete. There is nothing left to pursue, nothing left to fix. You simply abide in the knowing that all is perfect in this present moment. A healing practice, the final practice to do nothing. This is not an exercise to achieve something. This is a permission to return. Find a space to abide. Find a comfortable place where you will not be disturbed. Release all tools. For the next 5 minutes, consciously let go of every technique you have learned. Let go of the need to visualize, to affirm, to declare, to be grateful, or to observe. Let go of the very concept of self-improvement or manifestation. Simply be. Sit or lie down. Close your eyes. Your only instruction is do nothing. Do not try to quiet your mind. Do not try to feel peaceful. If thoughts come, let them come. If feelings arise, let them arise. Simply rest in the awareness that you are here right now. Feel the completeness. In this space of non-doing, you may touch upon a profound peace. This is the feeling of your natural state. This is the feeling that reminds you that you are already whole, already complete, and that all is fundamentally well. This is the feeling of, it is done. Carry the abiding with you. This is not a practice to get something. It is a practice to remember something. The goal is to carry a small part of this non-doing peace, this feeling that all is well, into your world of doing. The greatest journey is not a climb to conquer a distant peak. It is a perfect circle that leads you back to the truth that was always in your heart. There is nothing left to seek. The work is done. All that is left is to be